Good morning. Good morning. How's everyone doing? Welcome in. Good morning, Butterfly.
Morning, Salty. How
Or
are you?
I'm
Morning,
good.
everyone.
It's noontime, right?
Oh, yeah, noon. I know.
I'm so used to us going in the mornings. I'm like, I don't even know what's going on anymore.
Exactly.
So good day to everyone, no matter what
Happy,
time it is
happy
in your
Friday.
world. Ooh, it is Friday, isn't it?
Yes, yes, yes.
So I
And I'm
think
counting down the days to my vacation. So,
how
yes.
much longer do you have?
Well, Sunday, we're going to San Antonio Zoo with my son and his girlfriend. And then we head out on, like, overnight, Monday. So,
Awesome. And we don't have
yeah.
any storms coming our way right now, so you're good to go. You're-
Looking forward to it. Needs that beach therapy after all this.
oh,
Perfect timing.
right? I had it on my mind last night too. I was like, man, I really need to go for a super long walk on the beach.
Yeah.
Definitely needed. I need a pond or a lake in my backyard. A water source of any kind would be awesome because I just love the water like that. Um, I
Yeah.
do. I could sit around a body of water and I'm at peace. I don't care if
Yeah.
it's the beach, the river bank, the creek, the lake. You put me beside the water, and I'm done. Leave me alone.
That's the
My,
only way I can tolerate the heat is to have a source of water nearby. Otherwise, I just can't, especially here.
oh, well, that's a given in Florida. Yeah, I don't care if it's winter. If you put me next to a body of water, my mind is gonna go and escape, and you could talk to me for an hour, and I might not even be there. I mean, I've been known to sit on the boat in the river just photographing the nature.
Right.
My brother-in-law's
Exactly.
like, "We're fishing, you know that, right?" And I'm like, "You are."
I'm just here for the ride.
I'm just taking pictures back here on the boat. Y'all leave me alone.
Exactly. Exactly like I'm not here.
Look, Forrest says after this we need a 12-step program.
For real, Forrest.
He
I
ain't
agree.
lying. He ain't lying. Forrest is coming in with the truth today. Um,
Yes, yes.
Welcome in, Forrest. Thank you for being here, Reese. Good to see you. Welcome in, Rachel, my girl. Always good to have you here with us. Who else do we have in here? I think Hank's Liars. Boy, oh boy. I'm glad you caught the live, Reese. Wasn't sure if I was going to go live today. I took yesterday. I took yesterday off, and I wasn't sure about today. But I was like, you know what? I miss my peeps. I gotta go run my mouth, especially with some stuff coming down that I was seeing last night.
Yeah.
Whatever. I got to
All
go
the
talk.
aftermath.
Right? I got to go unpack this with the people.
Right.
So
Exactly.
that's what we're gonna
We were
do.
having withdrawals.
I know, right? We were all wondering if Karen and her team would come out and do like a press conference at the end of the day, on the 18th, when she was found not guilty. And they haven't come out and done like an official press tour or anything like that, but there have been some things trickling out. And so I've collected some things from yesterday evening, last night, this morning. Butterfly and I were sending, did you see this? Did you see that? Like we usually do. We probably inundate each other with so much stuff. We're like, hold on.
Right. And then we end up watching the same things at the same time. So,
And at the same time, we're like, we're both seeing this at the same time, but it's good. That way we can keep up with what's going on, right?
right.
So I have a couple of things from, well, Alan Jackson went on a radio show, I think it was, and they did a little, somebody posted a little bit of that on Twitter. And I have that little bit of commentary from him. And there was somebody that I think you linked me to this one, Butterfly, a Substack someone wrote about the
Hmm.
Juror 11 interview.
Yeah, I think she was the first one that interviewed her, probably,
I
and then
think
all the others
so.
came after. Yeah.
Yeah, and because she didn't make it a secret as to who she was.
Mm-mm.
I got no problem with a juror wanting, like I said, I won't chase jurors down or try to out them or hunt them down. But if they want to come out and speak publicly, that is their prerogative, and I'm not here to stop them.
Right.
I don't
I
have
don't. I
any
don't think I would want to. I mean, especially if you don't know how big the case is,
yeah.
and you kind of. I would probably wait myself, but not
Yeah.
everyone's the same.
No, they're not. You're going to have jurors that are just, ready to come out and speak, and some who never want to even be known they were a juror. And I respect it either way because you catch a lot of flack if you don't give the right verdict. Well, what people perceive to be the right verdict, right?
Right,
The
right,
second that this juror came out and began to speak, oh man, the trashing on the Twitters began. I
right.
mean, they're like ripping her apart. Oh, she
I
followed this
know.
person. She did that. Well, so did Arca's wife.
Right,
She
right.
was in the free Karen route. Let's go back all the way to Delphi and let's talk about how the psychologist who was treating Rick Allen in prison was also a member of Facebook groups and running around
Mm-hmm.
to Gray Hughes, okay?
Right.
Following all kind of stuff on social media. But people didn't think that was a big deal.
But she even said that she thought she was guilty at first. And then with all the evidence, like she's an attorney in Brazil, so she knows not our process, but
Right.
I mean, common sense. I mean, common sense prevailed this time, so that's good to know.
Yeah. She and even with that first juror from the first trial, he was a trained paramedic, and they had
Hmm.
questions, and he's talked about that openly um, throughout this trial. He's been on numerous shows talking and giving it. Court TV loves him, and a couple other places love him.
Hmm.
Um, Hank says, "I wonder if any will look at things and find out what was hidden from them, even if the right verdict came in." Are you talking about this case or Delphi? Because I don't,
Right.
a lot of stuff was hidden from jurors in Delphi, but whole different case. Reese says we could talk sometime about O.J. Simpson jury nullification. Girl, right? I mean,
Rabbit holes.
rabbit holes. Look, I was alive during OJ. I watched
Yeah.
that. That was like the first big, I mean, court TV and all that, was coming along, but that was like the first massive trial that we all could see at the same
Hmm.
time, mass, broadcast everywhere. And boy,
Yeah.
that outcome. And then, Casey Anthony, we all know what happened
Yeah.
there. He's talking about this case, Karen Reed. It's always interesting what is allowed to come into court and what isn't, right? With all these cases, what legally is allowed and what isn't allowed. Um, yeah, that Furman dude, man, Reese, don't even get me started on Mark Furman.
Right.
And people are just platforming him all over the place. Like, I mean,
Yeah.
okay. I thought he went away many years ago, but he didn't right away. But then I thought he did. Then it come to find out, no, he didn't go anywhere. So yeah, people are always going to have something to say. It feels like the no matter what happens, what the verdicts come out to be, people are going to have things to say, and of course the people who thought Karen Reed was guilty, and I'm going to go ahead and out on a limb and say there's two major ones with major platforms that are out here
Hmm.
calling jurors ignorant,
Yeah, I saw
calling
that. That
them,
was disappointing.
what do you think, Jacoff? They found the dumbest jurors in Canton they could possibly find, the most uneducated people who will believe in anything. That's
Well,
what you're
she's the
saying.
dumbest former FBI agent I've seen.
She said it.
I mean, just saying.
Oh my God. It's true. That is so true. Um,
I mean, for
Rachel,
her not to think that the new homeowners wouldn't have their own cameras, and she gets caught on cameras, quote unquote, sneaking around, taking
yeah,
pictures. I mean, come on.
yeah.
I mean, a smart former FBI
Okay.
agent would know that.
And to run to a YouTube live with some fake ass Google searches.
Oh,
I
yeah,
got
yeah, yeah.
Rick Allen's Google searches. Oh my God. Is he a real cop? We're
Yeah.
like, Jen, you think Rick
Are
Allen is
you
that
real
stupid?
FBI?
Are you real FBI? How long to become an FBI agent?
Right? Cosplay.
I did, Hank. Hank says, did I come to the same conclusion as being the 13th jury? I did. Not
Hmm.
guilty. That was my verdict.
Yep.
Which reminds me, I will be over on Miss Shorty's tomorrow night to do our final recap of well, my final recap over there with her on the show on the Karen
Got the
Reed trial.
flops.
Yeah, because I've been going over there, you guys know that, and giving the updates with her every couple of weeks and weighing in on things and talking about the case. And I messaged her when the verdict came down, and she messaged me right back, and she's like, "We're on for Saturday, girl." I'm like, "Yes, ma'am."
Yeah.
Um,
Yeah, well, same here because I didn't. I think you knew probably a little more than I did. Because I never watched the first trial either. So
yeah,
we kind of went along
hmm
together
yeah, we did.
on this journey.
We did, and we both have the same conclusions after seeing
Mm-hmm.
and after listening to the jurors speak about what their concerns were. They were the same as ours.
Yeah, they validated everything that we were thinking.
Hmm. And look, Sejoy says, wonder if Higgins is still in the country. That is an excellent question, Sejoy, since people are starting to talk and Higgins is nowhere to be found. Do you think his trauma buddy, Berkowitz, gave him some, sound advice?
Mm-hmm.
Don't go talking, buddy. Just let it ride.
Yep.
Just let it ride,
And
Higgins.
I mean, I am glad they came forward and spoke because they kind of gave us
Oh,
just
I'm not mad at it.
validation of what we were
Yeah.
thinking and inside, you know, perspective of what they thought. So I'm ready to hear all that.
Okay, I was reading there's Miss Shorty's link in the chat, guys, if you want to go over and check her out. Most of you already do. Reese says if the defendant is presumed innocent and the jury don't convict, doesn't that mean state failed to prove guilt? Yeah. Mistrials should equate to acquittal. That should be the first judicial system change. Yeah,
Mm-hmm.
exactly. And if they find you not guilty, then it absolutely means they didn't think that the prosecution met their burden to prove their case. And boy, they failed miserably in this case. They continued to fail throughout the process.
Right.
None of their witnesses were really convincing at all.
Mm-mm.
It was
Mm-mm.
hard. It was hard to get behind some of the stuff they were saying. Um,
And it's crazy because some of their own witnesses, which the medical examiner and the criminalists led
mm,
them to think there was enough reasonable doubt based off of their own witnesses.
yeah, exactly. Because a majority of the witnesses came from the prosecution, right?
Mhm.
Um,
Mhm.
just about, I don't think the defense. I don't. I've stopped counting how many each side called, but I know
Right.
how many notes I took on the prosecution's case in chief and
Mhm.
all of their witnesses, and the defense was just actually able to come out and rebuttal and cross and get the answers out that we needed to hear or that we
Right.
wanted to hear. And in fact,
Mhm.
Jackson talks about that in that clip I have about how he during that one session, when we listen to it, you guys will know how many times Hank objected and how many times
Oh yeah.
that the judge is like, yep, 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 we'll let that, yep, yep, let's give Hank whatever Hank's asking for.
Mhm.
It was mind blowing to Jackson how he maintained his composure with
I
that,
don't know. I would not
right?
have been able to.
Girl, I would have
I
lost
would
my
have been in
shit.
jail.
Right? It's probably a good thing Elizabeth Little wasn't the lead attorney. She'd been, "Look here, ma'am, we fix to be some ladies out in the yard because we're not having this."
uh-uh. Nope.
uh, Rachel says Bev's behavior during this trial was deplorable, and it was. And guys, I knew that Hank had been like the mob lawyer or whatever. He did defend Bulger. Okay, so then I had questions about the judge,
Mhm.
pockets being lined, different things go through my mind. Then I find out, I don't know how I missed this all this time because I wasn't looking and researching and different things. But
Mhm.
so Chris Albert, back in the day when he was like 22 years old, hit somebody in a hit and run accident and ended the person's life. and the man who defended him was Cannoni's brother.
And he still became a police officer.
No, Chris Albert is the brother to the officer.
Oh, okay. I thought he was
Yeah.
also an officer.
Wait, there's three of those brothers, right? You're right. Isn't there two that were cops and one that just owned the pizza
Yeah, I think
place?
so.
Okay.
Yeah.
So, yeah, I mean, it's like this is all weird. So what are y'all doing here?
Mhm.
I mean, this is, and you didn't recuse yourself. Maybe you didn't because you were the connection was so many years ago, whatever. It's just odd. There's always
Yeah.
these high profile cases that continue to have oddities happen in them. It's kind of like the Brian Koberger case. It's like how many every time you turn around, there's something new happening. Now we got the DoorDash driver
Mhm.
and all the things being said about that. It's like
Right.
it's always something, right? And it's just like it's that's how these cases blow up and get crazy.
Yeah.
Um, they all have deep ties, Hank says. They do seem to have some deep ties, Hank, and we took a look at a little bit of that one of our past streams while we were streaming the trial. I think we had a day off. We did a couple of things that we looked at, but they you know what though?
I think you didn't deep dive before because we were trying to stay neutral and just kind of
Yeah,
focus on the case.
yeah,
And I
and not
think
so
we
much
thought,
the stuff,
right.
the fluff around it. Yes,
Mhm.
I'm glad there were things I didn't know, but
Right.
when as I find them out, they're like, well, that makes a whole lot of sense now. It
Uh-huh.
doesn't make it right, but it makes it make sense.
Right.
Jen's dad has tied the judge and Morrissey. Yeah, I've heard things about Jen and possibly the judge knowing of each other, right? I don't know much about that Morrissey guy. I know people don't like him. I guess he's the one that decided twice to file charges against her out of his office, but and people were calling for his resignation, right?
I actually came across some some town meetings, and they were
Uh-huh.
calling out. I think it was maybe Chris Albert or somebody
Right.
about the Karen Reed case. So they were actually there
So
town hall meetings.
you saw some of the select board meetings then?
Mm-hmm.
Because as far as I know, one of the Albert brother is on the select board. And I know that they've had me me. I watch occasionally. I would watch the ones out of Latah County when Ann Taylor was there. People don't
Mm-hmm.
realize you can see those because there was a lot of misconceptions about certain things. But if you just go watch that, you can view it right and get an accurate depiction of what happens. That'd be interesting. I know the town has to be at an impasse, right? When so much
Mm-hmm.
just went on and the validity of the departments are in questions and one that protects the people. There are people who are pissed, people
Yeah.
who are mad, people who
The
don't believe
money that they're
in, yeah,
spending.
yeah. Well, they don't believe in their own law enforcement to
Right.
protect them and to protect and serve the way they should protect and serve, because you're out here giving all the cops a bad name when you're out here going rogue and doing all this weird shit, you know.
Mm-hmm.
And Proctor wanting to try to get his job back because personal text messages have never gotten anybody fired from their jobs, sir. That wasn't just abnormal personal
No.
text
It
messages.
was
That was
beyond the text
outright, yeah,
messages.
that was blatant bullshit, and you know it. Um,
Mm-hmm.
did I ever watch
Yeah.
the Morrissey's hostage video? No. Was somebody held hostage, Rachel? You may have to link us because now I'm going to be like, who got held hostage? um, Chris owns the pizza place. Okay.
Okay.
And is on the board. Okay. I thought it was Chris. Brian is on the PD and is Boston PD, and Kevin is Canton. Thank you, Hank, for
Oh, okay. Okay.
where I
Thank you.
knew there was three of them. Thank you.
Yeah.
I got them
I didn't
three
know
names
who went where.
confused. Just know what the one, Brian.
Right.
And why do all these guys look so, I didn't realize, I don't mean to throw shade at people, but what is wrong with Proctor? He doesn't look
Um,
real bright. I don't mean to be
no.
ugly, but he just doesn't come across as your autumn. You would right out of the gate go, this guy is a,
Well, they asked him if he would do it all over again. Yeah.
yeah.
Huh?
and then you're gonna cry about it on TV. Like, what?
Oh my gosh.
I couldn't help but
Yeah.
use a picture of him crying in my thumbnail. I was like, dude, so if y'all looking at like, who's that guy wiping his eyes salty? Well, that'd be Proctor crying over his own bullshit. My gosh. Okay, let me pull up the screen here and we'll start taking a look at some of this stuff, guys.
So Karen Reed went through two trials. There was another guy called Trial 4. He went through 4 trials there in Boston to prove his innocence.
Yeah, there have been people.
It's
Karen's not
crazy.
the first person to go back to back
Mm-mm.
trials, and it's not unheard of. It's not, it may be unheard of to people who are just following true crime because of the case or
Mm-hmm.
just getting into it or whatever. You'll be surprised. And
Yeah.
Judge Cannoni's
Well,
behavior,
they're in Boston. I think it was
yeah,
the same place. Yeah.
yeah, it was the same. And Cannoni's behavior is not a shock to me. If y'all have ever seen Judge Gull in action, Cannoni would
That's what I was gonna
not.
say. After
Yeah,
that one,
it wouldn't be a shock.
nothing
Um,
surprises you after that.
no, I'm not easily
Almost.
surprised to start with.
Yeah.
Sometimes I'm like dumbfounded at some of the things that will
Yeah.
be tried, but nothing surprises me anymore, especially with judges. What does surprise me is the lack of oversight that they seem to have. And
Mm-hmm.
how are their own states backing them? Are they really ruling within the letter of the law? Apparently they do if they're not getting too many appeals over, things turned over on appeal. There's a lot that goes into it. Why do certain defense attorneys allow, they stop objecting it sometimes? You don't never know
Mm-hmm.
what's going through. And I've always said, I don't know the law in mass good enough to say was Bev ruling within the law on some of this
Right.
stuff. Some of it doesn't seem like she was at all because you could barely hear what she was saying sometimes.
Oh,
Uh,
Rachel put that
blah,
word.
blah, blah, blah,
She
ask
was
it
saying even
differently.
worse.
Yeah, ask it differently. You're
Yeah.
like, we need to ask
Oh,
it differently. Use different words. Give me another dictionary. I don't
I don't
understand.
know.
Uh, yeah, it's wild that some of the things they do seem to be allowed to get away with, right? Um,
Mm-hmm.
it makes you go, man, how many times is this happening across the country that we don't know about?
And
The
judges get
cases,
away with and aren't held accountable.
and not just the judges, law enforcement. It starts even
Yeah,
with bad
that too.
investigations. Um,
Mm-hmm.
then once from the onset, the evidence collection, the investigation itself, all the things, there's so much that goes on, and from top to bottom, if it's bad, it's bad. And
Right.
I I don't want
It
to be
starts
that
from the
channel where,
beginning.
yeah, I don't want to be
Yeah.
that channel where every single case I cover is going to be this person's innocent
Mm-hmm.
and the government's giving them the shaft. I
Right.
I don't choose to set out to I don't want to wake up in the morning and feel that way about every case I cover.
No,
And
because each
I
case is
don't.
different.
Yeah, because each case is different. But it's these ones like this one that really make everybody look at the others more intently,
Mm-hmm.
and rightfully
Right.
so. There's already talk on Twitter about how all you Delphi and Karen Reed people really need to look at the Brian Koberger case. So guess what? I
Mm,
am the Delphi and Karen Reed people.
right.
And I've looked at Koberger from before he was ever arrested. And I
Oh
do
yeah, you
not
covered
see
that from the beginning. I haven't, so I'm still learning things, but
well, we're
I
going to
mean I'm
be diving
aware of
into
it.
that here real soon. We're going to start doing a
Mm-hmm.
series on that and looking back at like a lot of the old stuff, old press conferences and things of that nature. I want to go back and see some of the things that may or may not have panned out. What makes sense now compared to, because sometimes law enforcement don't mean to, but they make things worse
Right.
because they don't know how to come out and talk to the public. They don't all have a big polished up PR person that can go out and speak to the public and to members of media and things of that nature. They come out with the chief or whoever, who may not be as experienced in that stuff, and then they kind of just bumble it around, and people are like, "Oh, look what he said there, and look how they said that."
Mhm.
Read a lot into it. So yeah, we're going to go back and look at a lot of that stuff coming up here. Um, gosh, we don't have really that much longer before that trial starts.
Right. So he didn't grant the continuance and
Well, not yet, and I don't think he's
oh,
going to.
okay.
He said
Right.
there in court, "Y'all just be prepared to roll like we got it scheduled right now," which is a big
Good.
indicator to a lot of us he's not going to
Right.
grant the continuance. Now, I checked this morning. I haven't checked in the past 10 minutes, obviously, but this morning with my coffee, I checked. No new documents in the Koberger case. Um, well, there was to seal a witness thing, but you can't see anything there. There's nothing to see. And I also checked
Mhm.
the Stearns docket. They add because I was waiting on those rulings to come back over there.
Right.
Nothing yet, no ruling, but they added another attorney onto Stern's case because of the death
Mm.
penalty. And right now, they still have it rescheduled to start July 15th, the trial.
Okay, good. I'll be back from way before then, so
Yeah, they had it
I'm
down
not
at the
missing
14th,
anything.
and then there was a document that's not showing yet, but it shows the title, and it's reset for the 15th, which means they're planning to go to trial next month or just a couple weeks, but we don't have a ruling yet on the three searches they're trying to keep out of court,
Mhm.
which is his entire case. That's the CSAM only. That's not the murder case I'm speaking of,
Right.
guys. Um,
So I
they
wonder
are
why it's taking him
presumed
so
innocent.
long.
Huh?
So I wonder why it's taking so long
What?
to make a ruling on the
Oh,
felony.
I don't think he'll take long. I think he already pretty much had his mind made up. He likes to put that pen to paper, and he likes to make it make sense when he writes that order up. It'll probably come out today at some point. I'll be
Right.
surprised if it doesn't.
No, I
Yeah,
meant in
he
Stearns.
and oh,
In Stearns.
Stearns?
Yeah.
Oh, yeah, I don't know what's taking so long there. It makes me nervous. But now that
Yeah.
but I do know they do have it reset for the 15th. So I'm like, well, if y'all feel like you're going to court the 15th, I guess we're not worried about this ruling, the court
Mhm.
itself, that they scheduled it. So it's not showing up in the docket at all, anything on that yet.
Yeah.
So, um, let me pull up what we had to look at here. Let's get going with some of this stuff. Okay.
And Rachel put that in the Discord. I don't know if you heard me.
Put what in there?
The Morsi interview
Oh,
or whatever. So she put it in Discord.
oh, the kidnapping thing?
I'm not sure. I
Is that
haven't
what
looked
she
at
was
it.
talking
So.
about? Oh, we don't have a Stearns hearing coming up, Rachel, but we do have the July 15th is the start of the trial. We already had a hearing on the issues, but he hasn't ruled on those issues yet on the phone. They already had a hearing on that. We covered it here. His attorneys presented their case, prosecution presented theirs, and yeah, nothing since then. Crickets.
Mhm.
Crickets. Okay, let me pull this up. Where'd it go? Oh, there's where I put that one thing. I was like, I was wondering where that went. Actually, let me go look at that real quick. I wonder if they have updated anything. It's the website for Jackson. Okay. Uh, the firm that Jackson works for here, and Elizabeth Little as well. Worksman Jackson Quinn. Of course, Karen Reed murder trial news, articles and videos related to the trial, and her attorneys. They got the pictures out, more photos, more photos. Everybody's smiling. Uh-oh, they have the verdict when it came in. Now, this website's been around for a long time. Of course, it's the website of Alan Jackson's firm, but they've had this information on here for quite a while, and they've updated it since the guilty or the not guilty verdict came down. Sorry, Karen, I didn't mean to call you guilty. But yeah, look, it's got a lot there. I'll have to drop the
From
link
the
for
first,
you guys.
yes, yeah, that's from the
Yeah,
first trial. It looks like
It's got it's got everything down for the
everything.
case. Got the trial. So it'd be a good place to go visit if you want to get some recaps on different things they found, interesting.
Hmm.
Karen Reed, trial judge, agrees to adjust the verdict slip. They just put different little pertinent information in here. Um, Different articles you can go back and cite. In a town divided, Karen Reed faces second murder trial and the death of her police boyfriend. It goes on and on. Of course, we know there's been tons of things written. Um, but yeah, that's just a site that I had saved a while back that I would go to occasionally when I remembered it. When I remembered I needed to go look at stuff because I'm always we've been so busy. Okay, so I wanted to get to, let's see, where did it go? Right here. Let me see if I can pull this up the right way. Okay.
Did you get a chance to see the 2020 from last night, the Dateline,
No, I
the
don't.
2 hour? I
I
didn't
haven't.
either.
I haven't watched any of them yet.
Me either.
I've only seen what I've seen on YouTube, and I've got some clips from
Hmm.
that. I didn't even try to watch any of it yet.
Me either.
I got Peacock. If 9 times out of 10, Dateline, the shit's on there the next day. So if it's there, I can go watch it today, and if it's there, I probably will later. Um,
Yeah,
I think I
something for
found
me to
that.
watch on my trip when I'm on the drive.
Oh yeah, there's yeah, yeah. Um, I didn't watch the 2020 special. I haven't watched the
Mm-mm.
Dateline, and I did not watch the Nightline, but I got some pretty good clips from all of them,
Oh, cool.
including a long one of the Alberts and McCabe's we're going to take a look at. But
Ooh, I haven't seen that one.
this is from a tweet on the Twitters, on the X, whatever you want to call it. It's from KY Maverick. Alan Jackson on the Howie Carr show. I don't know who Howie Carr is. I don't know. I couldn't even begin to tell you. Um, and I guess Alan Jackson calls in and has a conversation with him. Let's check it out.
4242. Just about 23 hours ago, Karen Reed was acquitted of all the major charges, found not guilty of murder, not guilty of manslaughter, etc. And it is a pleasure to be joined this afternoon by her attorney, Alan Jackson, who did such a fantastic job in the trial, both trials actually. Alan Jackson, thank you so much for being with us here on the Howie Carr Show.
It's my pleasure, Howie. Thanks for having me.
So did you ever were you ever in any doubt, or how much doubt were you in as to whether or not you could get a fair trial in Norfolk County the second time around?
Oh, I had how much doubt was I? I was in enormous doubt. I mean, I never doubted the evidence. I never doubted her innocence. I never doubted Karen's. The just result should be that Karen walks out of that courtroom in the front door, through the front door, not the back. But did I doubt whether or not I could get a fair trial? About every single minute of every single day. Yeah, I doubted it significantly. I think we may be the only duo, lawyer and client, who has gotten back-to-back acquittals on murder charges. I mean, we got back-to-back acquittals. When has that ever happened?
Double jeopardy, and I thought you were going for triple jeopardy yesterday when they brought back they said, "Oh, we don't have a verdict after all." I mean, you're going into the record books. You got two murder acquittals here in a row.
Yeah, I don't know that I'll ever meet another lawyer who can claim that. Yeah, this team has gone through the gauntlet.
What was it like having basically the judge tied your hands, the defense's hands behind your backs, didn't she? What was that? What was that like?
First things, it was difficult. I mean, that was the challenge, right? So Hank Brennan came on as this, sort of self-proclaimed stalwart of justice. We're going to make sure that Karen Reed gets a fair trial. That was just lip service. It was anything but that. The Commonwealth had a theme and a theory going into this case that they did not want the jurors, in my view, they did not want the jurors to actually hear the evidence. They had no interest in having the jurors presented with the truth and the evidence on both sides, even playing field. Everything they did strategically was to try to hide evidence, try to hide witnesses, try to hide experts from the jurors. They filed motion after motion after motion. And, well, that's one thing. I mean, I can handle a prosecutor. I can beat most prosecutors with my hands tied behind my back. I know evidence very, very, very well. The problem is when the judge is on the Commonwealth side and tends to lean toward the Commonwealth, that makes life very difficult. And I've got example after example after example of the Judge Cannoni making very bizarre rulings that just did benefit the Commonwealth over the defense. And they're myriad.
Yeah, we would get, people would be texting in and saying, why doesn't Jackson object to this or that? And I said, after, he's been overruled, his objection's been overruled about 1 million times in a row. I mean, he's just pissing off the jury if he keeps objecting because he knows what's going to happen, right?
So the court is a theater, right? There is a theater to courtroom advocacy. And part of it is playing to the audience. And the audience is not the public at large. The audience is not the bloggers. The audience is 12 folks, or in this case, 18 folks sitting in a jury box.
Absolutely.
I had to play the odds. There was a witness I took, Howie. This is still just shocking to me. There was a witness that I took on direct examination. It's direct. And it's an expert. And just allowed to lead experts. In every state in the union, you can have moments where you lead experts. Every question I asked was objected to by Hank Brennan, and 100% of his objections were sustained.
And that just right there, what he said, it's not, would you really call it leading your witness if you're the defense attorney and it's your witness you paid for? You need to ask certain questions, right? Not just give me your full report, now explain this and that, but also now let me ask certain questions to get certain things out so the jury can understand, right? Like he's saying, there's like a theatrical play here, and it's a beautiful song when played right. And this defense played it right, where that prosecution, who should have known better, failed miserably. But to be objected every single time he direct his own witness, and for her, we saw it with our own eyes with what she was doing that day. It's insane.
Never seen that in 30
But it didn't work, did it, Bev? No.
30 years of practice. Literally.
Today.
I think it was 49 objections and 49 sustained objections by Hank Brennan and the judge. Talk about trying to keep the information from the jurors. It's not like I was abusing my position trying to get information in that was not relevant. I just had to ask the question 17 different times in 5 different directions to get the information in front of the jury. I've never had a situation where the judge sustains every single objection by the prosecution. That's never happened. Statistically, it's impossible.
How about the fact when Brennan would kind of like, drift off and you would ask a tough question and she would ask Brennan, objection, counselor? I've never seen that in court. Have you?
No, never. It certainly seemed like the Judge Cannoni had an idea of what she thought should be presented to the jury and how she thought it should be presented to the jury instead of just being, calling the balls and strikes. That's what she's there for.
Right.
Her job is very, very it's simple. She is a gatekeeper of the evidence, for sure. Absolutely. So you don't want to allow abuses on either side to occur in your courtroom, but you allow the lawyers to try the cases. You allow the lawyers to direct examine the witnesses or cross-examine the witnesses. You allow the evidence to come in before the jury because ultimately the jury is the trier of fact, not the judge. The most important folks in the room are the jurors. So it struck me after a while, and it struck me in trial number 1. She did the same thing. It was just, in my view, abusive of the process, not allowing the system to just work. Let the witnesses testify, let the evidence come in, and let the jurors weigh the evidence, and then let the advocates argue about the weight of the evidence. That's a trial in and of itself. It's not difficult.
What would if you could speak directly to Judge Canone, what would you say to her in criticism of what she did?
Well, I have to be careful. I am an officer of the court in every jurisdiction in which I'm pro hoc, and I can imagine I may be back here in Massachusetts again. I doubt I'll be in front of Judge Canone, but my suggestion would be just do better. Don't try to put your thumb on the scale. No judge should ever try to put your thumb on the scale. Let the evidence get before the trier of fact in a fair and, above all else, an impartial way. I did not feel this was an impartial judge. I just didn't, and I don't think anybody who's watching would argue with that.
We all agree.
What about the district attorney, Michael Morrissey, who got 3,000?
And God, I don't mean to be interrupting, but I have to stop and commentate and say things under the fair use guidelines. By the end of this show, I'm probably going to get a warning from the YouTubes that I've done played somebody's stuff and that has some music in the background somewhere that I got to take out 5 seconds of music. Whatever. It's okay. It's okay.
Pages of evidence from the FBI, pretty much conclusively proving that your client did not strike John O'Keefe. And yet he went out and spent close to $500,000 to hire his own experts. What would you say to Michael Morrissey, the district attorney?
Rachel, it's the same way for Judge Gull in Indiana. Whole ass other state, right? And a judge with a... Judge Gull's behavior, guys. Bev's got nothing on that judge. As aggravating as she is, she's got nothing on Judge Gull. And we've asked that question so many times, Rachel, that I got sick of asking it. Who's going to do anything about this judge? That's why AJ's got to be careful here. There should be something that should be able to be done. Right? It's not fair. And
they should be held accountable.
Exactly. I understand Rachel's frustration because we went through this with Gull, and it's like, come on, man. Even when she removed Alan's team for no reason other than I don't like you, and they went to the Supreme Court with that, the Supreme Court made her reinstate those attorneys. That is the only trouble she got into. Oh, well, she was also taking dockets, court documents out of the docket, and you're like, you can't do that either, lady. That's public record. Put it right back in there. Do your job. That is the only.
She sends them to prison instead of jail.
Oh, honey, she didn't do that. No. Let's backtrack. Rick Allen was arrested, and 2 days later, without a hearing and an attorney present, he was shipped to prison for safeguard keeping to protect him from his. 2 days after his arrest, he was arrested 1 month before Brian Kohberger.
Yeah.
Brian Kohberger was sent to a county jail to await trial. Rick Allen was sent to, you know why he was sent to a prison immediately? And then right after the original judge wrote the order and then turned around and wrote another order recusing himself from the case.
I remember that part.
He was scared. He was scared of some social media. We're like,
I think he
social
was
media.
scared of something else. Forget the social media.
What social media? It took 5 years. 5 years have went by. You arrested a man. You should be proud of this arrest. And you're gonna stuff him in a prison, and you're gonna recuse yourself suddenly because the big bad social medias are coming. You damn right they were a coming. Oh my God, I'm gonna get fired up here in a second. Is it a full moon coming and all that? No. So I'm gonna be like, y'all, I will get in trouble. I will rip that lady. Oh my God, Rachel, you done got me stirred, girl. She is holding those transcripts hostage, and people's trying to raise money right now to pay for the damn things. I know 2 different not platforms, but 2 different avenues people are trying to do to raise money for them stupid transcripts that we should have already had a copy of.
For Michael Morrissey, I have a lot more to say than I have to say to Judge Canone. For Michael Morrissey, the overall arching comment is do better. Do better, sir. You are in the job of seeking justice. You're not in the job of winning cases. And that's what it seemed like he was doing. Not seemed like. That's all he was doing. And that's what Hank Brennan was doing. And that's what Laura
And at all
McLaughlin was
costs.
doing, who was writing all the papers, the abusive process, trying to keep all of our witnesses out of the courtroom. Literally, they spent hundreds and hundreds of hours filing motions trying to keep our witnesses away from the jurors. Ultimately, we were able to overcome it, but it was not easy, Howie. I got to tell you, this is the most challenging case I've ever tried in my life. And we didn't win because of the process. We won despite the process that was put in place in that Dedham courtroom. It was a travesty, in my
Amen.
view, an absolute travesty.
What was
Wow, that's a big statement.
Mm-hmm.
And
Yeah.
he's right. Against all odds, even if people, are hesitant that maybe she could have hit him, maybe he's not good enough.
Right.
Maybe he's never going to be good enough in a criminal trial when you're about to put someone in prison or death for the rest of their life. Maybe he's not good enough, because I'm telling you right now, you would know maybe you maybe have done this. You may be crazy.
Right.
That's what I'm going to say back. Y'all don't know. Lord. I don't fool with the cops. I think I've had to call the cops once in my entire life, because if I can handle it, I'm gonna handle it. But there's times, there's laws and shit, and we just can't handle it the way we see fit.
Mm-hmm.
So we have to
Right.
call. But I don't, no. I only call you if I need you. Otherwise, you stay over there and I'm staying over here. That's the way I like it. Arm's length,
Yeah.
buddy.
Yeah. Right.
Arm's length. And I live in tiny town rural America. Trust me, I know. God, the state bar needs to look into Hank's behavior. Hank's a whole ass behavior, Rachel, isn't he? I've been
It's
studying
just
up
the
on
whole
that guy.
ass.
Girl, I started studying up on him a little bit. I fell asleep the other night. No shit. I binged watched on YouTube. I binged watched, 3 back-to-back YouTube specials I found on Whitey Bulger, and all about Hank Brennan's defense of Whitey Bulger, and
Mm.
what all Whitey was convicted of and accused of, and how many years he hid out. For 16 years, huh, Hank? That man hid out from the world.
Was it
They,
under the guise of a informant?
yeah. Some paid off FBI agents and
Mm.
all that shit was
Mm-hmm.
legit, went to jail for it. Come on
Yeah.
now. I can't even trust the FBI in that state. No wonder you're mad at the feds, Hank. They did your old client dirty, didn't they? And he
Yeah.
thinks they're going to come out and tell him the investigation's closed. Hank, of all people. Hank, you threw major
Yeah.
shade at the feds. I don't think that's probably why he got investigated to begin. They're like, hey, look, this dude, Hank Brennan's back.
Right.
Let's investigate this shit for shits and giggles. Go feds.
was the worst thing that they kept out? The butt dials, the FBI, the
No, the
solicitation
FBI.
of a bribe.
You just hit the nail right on the head. The FBI. How can you possibly defraud a jury by saying, okay, defense, you're not allowed to mention the fact that ARCA was hired by an independent agency, the FBI and the Department of Justice, the DOJ, and at the same time allow the prosecution to get up and cross-examine the very witnesses that were hired by the FBI and call them your employers. Are you kidding? That was not a mistake. Hank Brennan did that absolutely on purpose, and he did it because he knew he was going to get a very favorable call by the judge. We objected over and over. We said he opened the door. This is perpetrating a fraud on the jury. This was not their employer. Nowhere close to being their employer. These witnesses' employer is ARCA. Yet when we went to sidebar, nope, you can't mention the FBI. And the Commonwealth was still able to perpetrate this just abject fraud on the jury. Now, thank God the jurors were smart enough that they did not allow that to affect their ultimate judgment. But
Just something, I just got reminded about something, guys. So my son, he knows mama's in here true crime and all day, whatever. He just kind of like laughs at me. But both of my adult children closet watch true crime stuff. My son, maybe not as much as my daughter. Well, so he comes home from work the day that Karen Reed was found not guilty. And we were making dinner, and I said, hey, what's Mason's schedule this week, the grandson? I was like, well, that long trial I was covering is finally over. Um, and we got the verdict, so I'm done with that for a little bit. And he's like, oh, yeah, have you heard about that crazy case? I said, what crazy case? And he said, well, I had to give one of the guys at the dealership a ride to somewhere. So the guy gets in the truck and he says to my, the radio came on and I guess the news came on. And the guy says, hey man, can you believe that lady ran over her husband drunk and got away with it? And I was like, your friend said what? And he told me again, I was like, do you mean the Karen Reed case? I don't know her name, Mom. She was drunk and she ran over that man. I was like, no, 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 no. First of all, he wasn't her husband. Second of all, she didn't run over him. Baby, let me educate you.
Right.
So then I said, how hard is Alexa's taillight lens, son? He said, pretty fucking hard, Mom. And I was get out of here with your Chrysler 200 over a fucking Elantra. I'll never
Right.
forget when I asked him that question, what kind of car is this? He's like, Chrysler 200. I was like, oh shit. If you know, you know. If you're in the Idaho 4 case, you know.
Mhm.
I'm like, no, please don't say that. But he did.
That's the kind of abuse that should not ever happen in an American courtroom.
Did you think that Brennan was going to seek jail time for the drunk driving?
No, I didn't. I told Karen going into the verdict watch, if you will, those I sort of have the sound of the Jeopardy theme in my head when I go into verdict watch. It's brutal. It's friggin' brutal. But no, I told her over and over, look, there is a very good possibility that there's going to be an OUI conviction. Very good possibility, and that was in some respects that was by design, and I can explain that at a later time. But there was, in my view, no way that Judge Cannone could actually impose some sort of draconian jail time. Nobody gets jail time in Massachusetts for first-time DUI with perfect driving record, and that's exactly how Karen came to. She's not allowed under Massachusetts statutes. She is not allowed to consider acquitted charges, and I knew in my heart of hearts, I knew we were going to acquit her of everything having to do with striking John O'Keefe with an SUV. It just didn't happen. It just didn't happen, and there was no way they could prove it happened. So she was going to be standing before the judge with a very clean record, first-time DUI, with no real information, true information about her BAC at the time of the driving. So I was not concerned that she was going to go to jail. Karen was very concerned, obviously. Anybody who's in that position thinks the guillotine is hanging over their head. Obviously, she's concerned, but I wasn't. And good for Hank for not seeking it, and good for Judge Cannone for not making it an issue of it. She was given the lowest level program that everybody gets for a first-time DUI, and that's exactly what should have happened.
Is the FBI going to get involved in this, do you think?
I wish.
Rachel, you're cracking me up, girlfriend. Sorry, guys. You're good for us. Thank you. Thanks for being here, everybody. I'll let this continue. I just had to say, Rachel, you're cracking me up. Stop it. You made me spit my drink out.
I wish they would. I thought it was sort of a sad day for the justice system when it was announced in court that, and Mr. Brennan took great pleasure in announcing in court that the FBI investigation was quote unquote closed. I've never heard of that, Howie. In part, and keep in mind, I don't know if your listeners know it, but I was a prosecutor for 18 years before I ever represented a defendant, and I did it at some of the highest levels. I've never heard of an investigative agency announcing to the targets.
Rachel, you're good. Don't apologize. And you know what? I may have to apologize because I'm about to go to X and comment on that post you just shared with me. Because, nah, fuck that dude. I will share in a minute. Thank you, hun.
The investigation is closed. That has never happened. So I still have questions about that, but it is what it is. Mr. Brennan announced it in court. I took him at his word. It was to me, it was a punt on the part of the FBI. I think there's plenty of information for them, plenty of evidence for them to investigate, and I think they should. And I think that if they...
Furthermore, that dude that made that post better have some proof to back up what he's saying. because he's gonna. I'm sorry, guys, I got sidetracked. I'll share with you guys in just a moment. Let this finish, and then I'll go rant on that.
If they're doing their job, they should look real close into the culture of the Massachusetts State Police, a culture that can foster somebody as dangerous as Michael Proctor and his
A cancer. A cancer. I remember that's a memorable line in your opening statement. I remember that. Well, I want to play you one cut before I let you go here from Michael Proctor. What did you make of that? Have you watched that yet?
I haven't. I couldn't. I was in a celebratory mood yesterday, so I couldn't bring myself to watch Michael Proctor do anything. I suppose I'll have to do it now you've shamed me into it. I got to watch it.
I got to play you one cut though.
I will.
I got to play you one cut as he goes over his investigative chops here.
Yeah,
cut 9.
Sure.
Take it with a grain of salt, y'all.
Part of the actual investigation that you would do over?
Because it's blowing up into this crazy so-called conspiracy, maybe I could have avoided it by, looking at other people's cars just to say we did it. There's some witnesses maybe we could have interviewed a little sooner, but overall, myself and every detective in that office worked this case like we always do, so I wouldn't change anything.
Nothing.
No.
We work this case just like we always do, Alan Jackson.
That is the scariest phrase I think I've ever heard from a detective. Given what we now know about how this case was investigated and not investigated, for him to literally say on national TV, nah, not so much. I would work this case just the same way I'd work every other case, just like I do every other case. Every other defendant, every other defense attorney who has represented a defendant in which Michael Proctor has touched a piece of evidence should be clamoring for some sort of habeas corpus, some sort of retrial, some sort of redo, if you will, in Massachusetts. He is a disaster in terms of an investigator, an absolute abject disaster. For him to say, maybe I should have looked at another car, maybe I should have interviewed a couple of witnesses. Are you kidding? He acts like it's an afterthought. That is your job, sir. Do your job. Do your duty. You're supposed to be an objective finder of fact, and then present those facts to a prosecutor who then presents those facts to a jury. None of that happened. None of what I just described happened. And that is day one in law school. That's day one. You learn that.
How's Karen Reed doing right now?
Phenomenal. She is the toughest woman I know. She has a steel spine. She's got no quit. She's never given up. I think, we're all in a position right now. We've lived.
Here's the thing about Karen Reed. Even if she was confused about what could have happened that morning, even if she thought she did hit him, she damn well knew she didn't do anything intentionally, and she wasn't some ranting, raging, murderous bitch out for revenge.
Mm-hmm.
Right? And I think that's where a lot of women connected with her. And her dad talked about that in the interview, because he did a couple of interviews, and I've got those as well. And he spoke about that, about the number of women that connected with Karen Reed, and especially when those text threads were read between her and Higgins. There were people out there, I think, wanted to throw so much shade at Karen Reed. Oh, look at her. She's flirting with this guy and blah, blah, blah. He was doing an awful lot of flirting with his friend's girlfriend. Yep. He was also flirting in that man's home with that man's girlfriend. He's a snake.
Mm-hmm.
And I think a lot of women have had to deal with a snake at one time in their life, or, even if it was when you were young and you didn't realize it, right? The early boyfriends or whatever. If you've been married all your life and everything's great, you may not know. But a lot of women know. You're going to run across that one guy. There was that one time. Yeah. And sometimes they're incredibly difficult to get away from, especially if you share a child with the person. Like Karen didn't, but there were children involved.
Right.
And and I think a lot of women can connect with, and then getting accused of things you I might have done some things, but I didn't do all of that, right? Don't come at me with
Yeah.
that. And I think we have probably all come close to, if not experiencing something quite like that as well. If you got a large family or a lot of friend group, you may have experienced somebody in your life that has done you the same way. And nothing, it was like, are you fighting a losing battle if you try to defend yourself, right? And then if
Yeah.
you do defend yourself, then you're that woman,
Mhm.
right? You know what I'm
Well,
talking about.
that's what they initially thought of her
Exactly.
until they started seeing the evidence, in which what not a lot of people are doing, especially the anti-free
Did
Karen
they
Reed.
get tunnel vision, right? And they just want to
Mhm.
believe, because you hear the people who do come out and say, well, everybody's going to believe everything law enforcement tells them. Not all channels are going
No.
to be like that, right?
Yeah.
As far as true crime community goes. It's like I say here, it's a case by case thing. I don't know which way a case is going to play out when we start covering it, how we're going to feel about it halfway through and all the
Mhm.
things. We don't know. We can't predict those things.
Right.
So it's just, I don't know, man. This space and navigating it and navigating these real life things that come along with these cases, um, and they do affect a lot of people. And I think that's when people resonate with cases, right? And they can
Mhm.
resonate with the defendant or a victim.
Right.
You can, it can go in, and you don't have to resonate with the victim to feel bad for that victim or their family. Don't get me wrong. John O'Keefe was a
Mhm.
handsome man. I think he was probably extremely likable, boy next door, but there's something about those boys next door are hiding something.
Yeah.
I think my girl knows what I'm talking about. Um, to the world, they're the most amazing guy on the planet.
Mhm.
But to the woman that lives with that guy, she may get a very different man.
Yep. I was married to a cop for 17 years, so
Yeah, and I was married to the boy next door for 15.
yeah.
Huh. Go, Karen Reed. Miss Shorty, this is for you. Hashtag free Karen Reed.
In the pressure cooker of the last 3 years of
Fucking
this
A, let's
onerous,
do it.
draconian system that's tried to break her and beat her down, and we've all sort of been through it. Nobody as much as she has, and I think she's just processing what it feels like to be, a truly free woman. She's buoyed by the tens of thousands, millions of supporters who have raised their voices in defense of her, and that's where she gives the credit. Look, we all worked really hard, including her. By the way, she's the unsung hero of the defense team. She's as good a lawyer as I've ever seen, and I've seen some damn good lawyers. She's as good as
I
I've
think
ever
you're
seen,
right, sir.
strategically, attention to detail, finding the evidence, finding the details.
And here's the thing about Karen Reed. The woman was damn well smart to begin with, right? Um, she had her college degree. She had a couple of jobs. She had very good jobs. You couldn't have
Yeah.
those jobs if you weren't a very bright individual. Let's just face it. A lot of
Mhm.
drive, a lot of that, all the things. She was already poised to be very detail oriented and to pay critical attention and to know things like
Mhm.
that. And sure, hell yeah, she's learned a lot along the way, right? And
Yeah.
why not be that? I would be that involved in my case. I couldn't
Oh
sit
yeah.
back and not know anything.
Exactly.
You're because you're supposed to be involved, but 9 times out of 10, you're only involved to an extent, right? You feel like
Mhm.
maybe, a layperson may feel like, "Well, this lawyer's got it. They know what they're doing." But she was very proactive, and I'm not mad about that. I appreciate that more. I do. I don't have a
Mhm.
problem with Koberger being proactive in his defense as long as he, well, according to her, he's got too many issues.
Details, and exploiting those details and exploring those details in a courtroom. She's as good as it gets. But I think now she wants to take a beat, take a breath. She never wanted to be a lawyer. She never wanted to be in this position. I think she's probably going to a little separation from the justice system.
She needs to go with you, Butterfly. Send her a vacay invite. Shit, let's get her on down
Right.
here. Let's get Karen Reed on down here to the Gulf of
She
my
needs to
home.
go.
I don't know
She
what to
needs to
call it
go.
anymore. Do I be
I think she
politically
needs to
correct?
go
Shit.
outside of the United States, like far away.
No, I don't leave the U.S. because of some dumbass people in mass. stay within the U.S. I would because it's safer. I don't like.
Well, yeah,
The thought of leaving the country terrifies me. I don't know what's going to happen. That's a
true.
long way away.
Yeah.
Seen stories about those foreign jails. No, thank you. It's hard enough to get out of an American.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, I didn't even think about that. That's true.
Uh-uh. There's a lot of places to get lost in right here in America. I think I'll be fine. Um, so don't. No, I'm not. I'm not the travel abroad kind. But get
Yeah, me
yourself
either.
on down here, girlfriend, to my Gulf and touch some sand.
Mm-hmm.
I'm just gonna call it the
Yep.
Gulf. That's what we call it down here on
There
the
you go.
redneck Riviera. It's just the freaking Gulf. I can't be politically correct, and
Yeah.
my memory just wants to say Gulf of Mexico. That's what it
There
has
you
said for
go.
58 freaking years.
Yeah. If it
I hope
ain't
she
broke,
gets a
don't.
job back at Fidelity.
Uh-uh.
Alan Jackson,
Hard to
I'm so appreciative
hard to
of you
change it.
coming on and give our best to Karen. And I hope next month when you come back, you can like come in and spend like an hour with us talking about
I'd love
this
to. I'd
case.
love to. That's it.
I would love to interview Alan Jackson just because he would be cool to sit down and have a great legal conversation with. Right. And then when I'm telling you, when I go over there to publicly buzz and hang out and do murder church and have my coffee in the on Sunday mornings, yeah, that's what I do on Sunday mornings in the backyard. I go to murder church. So anyway, watching that trial with Phil Spector over there and watching Alan Jackson in that case has been super interesting. Um, I didn't always realize he was the attorney in that case
Hey,
until,
I did not know until you said something. I had no idea.
yeah. And Linda from what is the name of that channel, guys? Rach, you may know, Butterfly. Uh, Justice Served, is it Justice?
Oh,
I
okay,
don't.
just a search TV.
The lady with the blonde hair, the and then
Yeah.
she's the attorney for Phil Spector. She was his defense
Wow.
attorney. Yeah, and she's always got cool things to say about Alan Jackson on the Reed case. And when I realized that's who she was and that's who Alan Jackson was, I was like, well, this is a cool dynamic, And
Right.
so, because I like when lawyers have respect for each other.
Mm-hmm. And I like
That
listening
have,
to their perspectives regarding
yeah,
like these
yeah.
cases.
Because it's nothing. It shouldn't be anything personal. But Hank obviously crossed
He's
that
the
line.
exception.
Yeah, he crossed that line of personal like day one. He's like, did somebody? He's a special prosecutor. All of a sudden, he goes from. Sorry, I thought I
Well,
heard
if
a noise.
he had tried this case legit without any shady crap, then you know the whole him dynamic between him and the judge, maybe people wouldn't have questioned that.
Right.
I mean,
Yeah.
it shouldn't have been charged to begin with, but had they had to go there.
This is true. Rach forgot. But look, Butterfly, we forgot. She's got on years probation. She can't leave.
Oh, that's
Damn
right.
it, man. You know what? Go to your probation officer, Karen. Tell them it's vacay time. You're going to be gone for 2 weeks. They'll sign off. You can go.
She don't need no ankle bracelet on the beach.
No, God, no. Not just to go. And I'd hate to see her have to go down to the Boston Harbor to get to the water. Shit.
Right.
I know what's going to heal your soul, honey, and it's going to be the water. And that saltwater air is perfect for your MS.
Mm-hmm.
It's so healing. And touching our clear quartz crystal ground. Look, Butterfly, I'm excited for you to come get on that clear
Me
quartz
too.
crystal and get that grounding and healing. There you go. Linda Kenny, is it Baden? Is that how you pronounce it, Hank? Thank you for that. That's her name. Yes.
Yeah.
She's really cool. She's so knowledgeable and she just spits out stuff and doesn't really
Mm-hmm.
stop to think, you know what I mean? Just evaluate what
Yeah.
she's about to say. She just lets it roll, and I appreciate that. It doesn't break up the flow, kind of like Ali Mott, just let's let it go, baby. Okay.
Exactly. Well, I need to recharge anyway before the Stearns trial. Like a
Yeah,
good
well, I
recharge.
don't know how long that damn thing's going to be. It's supposed to be, well, hang on. I say it's supposed to be televised, but I got to go back and look at what some of the court docs say about that and
Mm-hmm.
see if we have any kind of information about that on the docket so I can get prepared for that. That shouldn't take long. And the kind of evidence that would be presented in that first trial,
Mm-hmm.
the CSAM, we're not going to see it. Thank God we can't. They're
No,
not.
it's
They
just
won't
seeing
show that.
him.
Yeah,
If it is televised, seeing his ugly ass.
the jurors will be passed. I don't think it would be. The jurors will have to see it, right? They're going to
Yeah.
narrow it down, whatever. But if they do air Stern's little mini trial, yes, we will be airing it here because we have followed that case since Maddie went missing, right before Stearns was arrested. Back when we all first saw video and go, "Ooh, that guy's weird,"
Yeah.
and
It's
that guy's
disgusting.
weird turned into, "Holy shit, that guy was weird."
Well, I had my
Girl,
gut
did you see that
feeling
latest
from the
book he
beginning.
ordered? Did y'all see that latest book he ordered?
Yeah.
The Jailhouse Cookbook.
Oh
Good
my
job.
God.
You gotta learn how to
That
make
man
them
doesn't
ramen
cook
noodles.
nothing. What the hell is he gonna cook? Root
Ramen
beer
noodles.
candy and melt it?
Yeah, exactly. You'd be surprised what they cook in them jails. I'm just
Ugh.
saying. I'm saying y'all would be
Yeah.
shocked. I'm not surprised there's a whole ass cookbook on it. Because those girls in jail, when I talked to those two that time, I sat down, we did an interview with them basically, and asked about all kinds of things. Because it was about um, how the jail treated inmates and what was available and all the things, right? All the different things. And that was one of them about making jailhouse food. I'm like, what are you talking about? And it was like, girl, we can make like coffee drinks. We can
I
make
mean, I've heard grilled cheese, but I
they
haven't
like
heard like
burritos and shit. I'm like, what? I don't even know what. And they would tell me how they would go about it. All you guys like hot water, and I don't think ours has a microwave in it, like the girls could use or anything. I think they had a hot water dispenser. I don't know. They just come up with all kinds of stuff.
I know.
So there's a whole cookbook apparently, and yeah, Stearns made mommy and daddy order him that cookbook. Okay, so we're gonna watch a piece now, guys. I had everything in order that I kind of wanted to go through it, but I think we'll start with this one piece instead. I'm going to pivot just a little. This comes out of NBC 10 Boston, and the headline I listened is only like 3 minutes long, 3.5 minutes long, and it just says O'Keefe family didn't like cheering when verdict was read. But when I listened to the piece, I don't think I heard them talk about that in it. But I've got several clips saved, so we'll have to hear it. This, so I remember the reason I wanted to go ahead and show it. It gave a little bit of more backstory. Okay, included. Then we're going to roll into some of the pieces that I have saved for us to watch together. We do shit here as a community. It's what we try to do. And I wanted to come and, watch this stuff with you guys. I didn't even watch all of it all the way through. Do you know what I mean? I started previewing. I'm like, save. And then you were sending me things. And I'm like, you know what? Let's just go live and we'll talk about, because you and I would have been back and forth all day talking about it. Let's just go live and do it. Maybe some people want to come hang out and do it with us. So, this is the first piece that I had. Listen for us. I got to go let the dog out while this starts, and I'll be right back.
She was acquitted on all charges except drunk driving yesterday. Her second trial ending almost 3.5 years after the death of her boyfriend, John O'Keefe. We do have team coverage breaking down the verdict for you and all of the reactions surrounding it. First, we want to start with Manoj Kungwari, who has been covering the trial for us every day in Dedham.
Karen Reed and her defense team met with loud cheers following the verdict Wednesday. Approaching the microphones, this was the first time she made a comment in days, thanking her supporters.
Who have supported me and my team financially and, more importantly, emotionally.
Before leaving for a nighttime celebration with her family in downtown Boston.
I'm happy.
Her message to critics and or John O'Keefe's loved ones.
I fought for John O'Keefe harder than anyone.
Meanwhile, her legal team.
Our team really did not have concerns, particularly after yesterday and those questions. Our biggest fear was a mistrial, and thank God that didn't happen.
It's pretty straightforward. When you have truth and justice on your side, you're going to ultimately prevail.
Now, we have yet to hear from Special Prosecutor Hank Brennan, nor have we heard from the Norfolk County District Attorney Michael Morrissey. But it should be noted, Karen Reed also has a pending civil case against her. We'll, of course, continue to keep you updated from here. But for right now, reporting in Dedham, Manoj Kungwari, NBC 10 Boston.
Defendant not guilty or guilty? So say you, Mr. Foreman? So say you all?
Those are the sound of cheers heard in the courtroom from outside as the not guilty verdict is read out. Many who gathered outside wearing pink to show their support for Karen Reed. All of this comes as friends and family of John O'Keefe are left without an answer. NBC 10's Alicia Palumbo has more on that from Canton.
No matter what anyone thinks happened in this case, John O'Keefe's family and friends have now been through 2 lengthy and painful trials. And at the end of the day, no one is being held responsible for John O'Keefe's death. O'Keefe's lifetime family friend called the verdict devastating and said this has been a 3.5-year nightmare. They said they were not pleased with Karen Reed's statement outside court that nobody has done more for justice for John O'Keefe than she has. O'Keefe's friend John Jackson said they were also unhappy with the cheering outside the courthouse when the verdict was read.
It's been a tough day for all of us. Anybody who followed the case and listened to all the evidence that was out there knows what really happened here. So, you respect this, you respect the process and the jury and the system, but I'm not happy about it.
The McCabe, Albert, and Roberts families released a joint statement saying, in part, today we mourn with John's family and lament the cruel reality that this prosecution was infected by lies and conspiracy theories. The result is a devastating miscarriage of justice. Obviously, this case has created deep division here in Canton, and people we spoke with here this morning say they're hoping now that the verdict is in, they can begin to heal. In Canton, Alicia Palumbo, NBC 10 Boston.
Alicia, thank you. Former state trooper.
Oh, look at that guy. Alessi and Yannetti are on Runkle tonight. Wow, Rach. Can you grab that link and drop it in here for us, please? Hey, Joe Schmo. So I was starting out this morning to tell you guys, Joe is traveling today. I have been keeping in touch with him, making sure our buddy is safe on his travels. He's checking in from a Love's travel stop. I'm glad you checked in, Joe Schmo, and are listening to us while you're traveling. I was hoping that you were, so good to see you in here. So yeah, guys, Joe's making his way back from Arizona back over to Indiana. And I think he's on the last leg of his trip. So we wish you safe travels, our friend, and check in with me again later. You know the drill. Yep. Got your snacks, Joe? We need to know. You know, Butterfly and I need to know if you got those snacks in that passenger seat where you can just reach over and grab one now. We don't need a hangry Joe out there driving around. All right, guys. So sorry, I was reviewing a little video that was sent to me by my girls. Let me check this out. I think I'm going to go pull this up on Twitter and let us look together. So that DePetro guy, that Joe DePetro, is that how you say his name? DePetro is the way I'm going to say it, because he's just,
yeah, I think it
Petro.
is.
Makes me, it sounds icky. He's icky.
Mm-hmm.
I tolerated him on Court TV because I'm not the boss of Court TV. I get why Court TV puts the people on that they put on. I get it. It's for a show. You got to have both sides and both, all the things. I don't know, whatever. I don't care. If I don't like the person on the show, I just tune them out when they're talking, right? I honestly do. Because I'm a huge fan of Vinnie Politan, but that's because I go way back with Vinnie. All the way back to his early days before Court TV. We're talking CNN, HLN days, right? Early days for Vinny. And he's always been there for true crime with me. So whatever. Yeah, it's all good. Joe says, I've got some leftover burnt ends for my travel snacks. Yeah, that's what we're talking about.
My favorite.
You know it. All nice and tasty and full of protein. Is it right?
Hank Myers is not lying. Mr. Roper.
Mr. Roper.
Yes.
Perfect. Freaking perfect, Hank Slyers. I could just see him now, that look on his face, right? Mr. Roper.
When he rolls his eyes, yeah.
If you know, you know. Right? Yeah. That look of surprise. Three's Company too. Okay. So DePetro made a nasty post that I don't like. Rachel didn't like. I don't think Butterfly likes. I think a lot of people aren't going to like because of the accusation. and the climate in the country. And I'm saying that lightly because I don't watch the damn politics because I flat out don't care. But I'm not an idiot. I'm not an idiot. I know what's happening in my country. Because of the climate, you want to bring this up. What's that dude's name on the Twitter? Is it his handle? Is it John? Yeah, there he is. Of course, he'd be the first one to pop up like he's some kind of. So I didn't realize he was the Road Patrol Live guy. I'm like, what's the hell's a Road Patrol guy doing at the center of the Karen Reed discussion? Who cares? Go back to your Road Patrol and do what you do best.
Be on troll.
I don't know. What does he do? Does he like cops?
I have no idea. I didn't hear about him until this case. So
Is it like a cops show or something? Like cops did it. Bad boys, bad boys.
just wants to be relevant. That's all it is.
I don't know. But I know that Court TV always had him on. If it wasn't for them, I wouldn't know who the hell the guy was.
Right.
And then he shows, he's on the Twitter. There he's blowing his own horn by tweeting his own shit. Okay, I tweet your show, but don't retweet your. I don't know. It's just me. I don't know. I'm just weird. Where'd it go? Where is it? Where's that nasty post he made? Hang on, guys. Let me look for the. I'm on Twitter looking at it or looking for it there because I wanted to. There's actually two. So I wanted to see the originals on both, and I wanted to see what was said to his dumbass. I could go back and click to that link, and it would take me right there to it. Community note on this is from unreliable sources. He's going to call the community notes now unreliable about a Jen McCabe post. That's like y'all are saying the jurors are unreliable. And now you calling one an immigrant, illegal immigrant.
How does he know?
He says 10 hours ago he called her the worst. He says this is what he posted 10 hours ago. Worst jury since OJ, and now the not guilty all makes sense. She thinks a dog bit John in the garage. Another juror not convinced John is dead.
They're going after the wrong people here because they look at the evidence and who presented the evidence, who gathered the evidence. I mean, come on.
Yeah, he's
Idiot.
okay. Let me get to the. Okay, I saw this one, so maybe it was coming up. Oh, he's putting the fucking jurors on blast. He's got interviews with one of the guys I know is a juror because I got the interview myself, waiting for us to watch it. And he's over here talking about notice no pushback from TMZ. Pushback. I'm wondering, was he pushed back on what? Because I watched that already. This guy's weird, guys.
Yeah. He's
Why
like beyond.
Why did the people insert themselves so much into a case like this and are so vocal and are going to die on that hill and then will come out and talk mad shit about people? And it like they don't think that we should say anything on any about, but they can come out and disgrace people and talk about jurors.
Yeah.
This one was before, let's see. Okay. Oh, he's citing language barrier. What? Let me pull this up so you guys can see how ridiculous this man is.
She articulated fine. If they thought that she had an issue in understanding anything, she wouldn't have been a juror.
And if she was an illegal immigrant, she wouldn't have been placed on the damn jury.
For him,
and if they let that slip through the cracks, that's on them. Not us. Not Karen Reed. Certainly not Karen Reed. Fuck, if that's the case, total mistrial, never to be tried again. No scapegoat for your third time trial, charm, DiPetro.
Yep.
Okay, so he has a. Okay, so this is what he tweeted. Uncomfortable to watch. A Brazilian Karen Reed juror believes Karen left John at the waterfall and not convinced the Lexus was even on Fairview. I don't recall hearing her say that yet.
No.
CW needed a translator for someone. CW needed a translator for some on the jury. I haven't heard that anywhere else. How
Nope.
would you? I
She
think her
spoke
car.
fine.
This is what he quotes her as saying. I think her car touched him. How you say a little bit.
What an
Wow.
ass.
Oh my God. This dude is going to take he's going to take a beating, and rightfully so.
Mm-hmm.
Of course, that's just how. I don't want to say that wrong without it and it come out the wrong way. They speak that way, right? That's expected because they're describing the word. Can you explain that better, Butterfly? I don't know
Well,
how to.
another country, so she has an accent. So it doesn't mean that she's not she doesn't
Well, and
understand. She's
the way she
smart.
phrases it,
So
like how you say a little bit, that's how they phrase it, right? To make sure
right.
you understand that they understand what they're saying.
Mm-hmm.
That's my
So he's
interpretation
mocking
of
her.
that whole right. That is, and he's mocking her for it. But my interpretation to that was always to make sure we understand one another about what I'm saying, right?
Yeah,
That was
he's
it,
trying
just
to
to
degrade
clarify.
her so to make it look like she
Yes.
didn't understand what was going on.
She
So
no
therefore,
English,
create a
yeah. I
create
speak
a
no English.
conspiracy. Yeah. Yep.
Bullshit. You're coming. Okay, now he says, wow, possible language barrier with the jury. She did not understand much of the testimony and maybe needed a translator. Imagine if someone from ICE testified. Obvious bias towards police. Oh my
No.
freaking God. That's a huge
You know
accusation.
why? You know why he said that? Because she
Why?
said she had a hard time understanding what Russell was saying, but and he left this out. It was because Kanoni kept and what's his name kept ejecting and she kept
Uh-huh.
sustaining. So she couldn't
They
like
couldn't follow
she
the
was trying to
testimony.
explain, right? Because she kept trying to
Right.
explain and they kept cutting her off.
Right,
That's
right,
what she
right.
meant. So he's
And
trying to portray it as she just didn't understand because she
and
doesn't speak English.
that's
Well, you
interesting
know
because
what? Kiss my ass, dude.
thank you. Because that's super interesting though, because we were wondering if that was the case, right?
Mm-hmm.
If and for him, I don't know, this guy to come out here and make these kind of accusations talking about ICE. What kind of fire are you trying to light, sir?
Right, right.
Obvious bias towards police because of her ethnicity? Did I say that
He's
properly?
like reaching ethnicity.
This is racist.
Yeah, what is
He's
he trying? He's trying to
He's
start
making
something. It
yeah,
doesn't have nothing
he's
to do with
making a
that
whole
shit.
accusation against her, claiming she has a language barrier, needed a translator. Imagine if ICE testified, obvious bias towards police. What does he mean by that?
I had
That's a
no problem understanding what she was saying. I understood
no,
every
we're
word
gonna
she
watch her
said.
interview. Um, we're gonna take a look at it. He also was this the first one that he made?
What a piece of shit. Sorry.
He's trying to quote her, I guess. Nothing that put her, Karen, at the scene. Blah blah. Okay, whatever. Um, I would rather talk about. Rachel says, "I see why I'm pissed." Yeah, we get it, girl. I
Mm-hmm.
mean, that dude, that DePetro guy needs to be. Everybody go to Twitter and just give him hell because I'm going to do it. I'll be so bored later this afternoon. I'll be like, "Where's that
Mm-hmm.
dude at? Let me go troll that dude."
Yep.
Um, did you get the link
Between him, Coffin Cocker, and some other chick named Wendy, I don't even know who she is. They're all
Okay,
spewing bullshit.
Wendy has been around for years. Wendy used to be on HLN as well. She was a commentator on things like Nancy Grace and other back in when my kids were little kids in the 90s, late 90s, mid to late 90s. True crime HLN had it going on with shows. You know, Nancy Grace was every single night, 2 solid
Mm-hmm.
years of Casey Anthony. You had
Mm-hmm.
2 other shows that came on right behind hers. Wendy was always a contributor. I'm very familiar with Wendy Murphy. People don't like her. She was always an airhead back then, right? But she was just a brunette.
Mm-hmm.
I never I never put a lot of stock in that what that lady had to say. To me, she was always scattery. So I just kind of like,
Mhm.
man, when she was on, I was like, that's one of them lawyers I don't care for, but there were others I'd be like all perked up listening. so,
Right.
so I know about Wendy, but so I ignore her on the Twitter, but I couldn't help but seeing some of the things she was posting because people I follow would comment, right? And so I would see their
Mhm.
comments. I'd be like, oh, wow, that was Wendy's post. Jesus Christ, lady, you look and sound like an idiot, but
They
who am I to
still do.
judge? um, Carry
Nothing's
on,
changed.
soldier. But Jennifer Coffindaffer's the same way
Uh,
because I didn't just. She's not someone I've just noticed their
but
tweets recently.
she
But
is an FBI former
well,
FBI agent. It should have more
we don't
common
know that
sense.
they're all trustworthy, though. That's the thing.
No, I understand. It's just that
Yeah, I
she's
mean,
not a critical thinker in the least.
it makes you wonder about their capabilities.
Mm-hmm.
And that
For
division
real.
that she worked in I'm sure
FBI in the
I'm sure
closet and the broom
okay, well, here's
closet.
the thing about Coffindaffer. She's got a lot of skills in a lot of ways, right? But what she's got tunnel vision as well. Because every single case that she's looked at, I think there might be one, and I can't recall right off bat which one it is, but it kind of surprised me, where she didn't believe what law enforcement was selling.
Mm.
Even in the Sebastian Rogers case, the path she chose to go down that road with
Mm-hmm.
that, I was like, girl,
Yeah.
that made me really side eye her
Oh yeah, definitely.
capabilities today. I can't judge that lady for what all that time she spent in the agency. I don't know what all she did and didn't do. How
Mm-hmm.
minor was her FBI role? I don't know. But the what I see today is kind of scary.
Yeah.
If that's what we
And
have
I'm
for
glad she's former.
former for a reason.
Yeah.
Um yeah, I mean it's a good thing probably. I mean not no probably to it. But sometimes there's going to be because the way she covers other cases, I already know,
Mm-hmm.
so they're not going anywhere. Some of these accounts, that DePetro dude, though, you're
Yeah.
crossing the
That's
line.
way weird.
I think Coffindaffer made a couple of posts as well about the
Mm-hmm.
jury, talking smack about the jurors too, which she shouldn't do. Who are
No.
you? Who are you to come out
They
and
did their
talk?
job.
Right? Um,
Even from how they spoke, you could tell they
yeah,
did their job. They didn't come out and say,
and they
"Oh,
didn't make a quick
I looked."
decision. Right.
Like in Lori's case, they didn't make those kinds of comments.
No, and they didn't make a fast decision. They did have questions
Mm-hmm.
applied, and to make these types of. And Jennifer did come out now. I haven't seen that she's made any nasty posts like DePetro over there, but I saw her questioning the jurors, right, and
Mm-hmm.
things like that. And I'm thinking, wow, y'all just can't concede that maybe the prosecution failed miserably to prove anything beyond a reasonable doubt. That's the gist of the justice system, right? You can't
Yeah.
just concede that. And then I saw, I think it was this morning after I was reviewing some of the stuff we're reviewing here, that Coffindaffer made a video and then she retweeted it on Twitter, of course, about herself. But where she was going to go back and now talk about the law enforcement investigation aspect of it. And I'm like, you're just going to dig at anybody now instead of
Right.
yourself. Go take a
It's
look
gonna
at
dig at
yourself.
anybody to stay relevant, is what it
Be
is.
be neutral as you can. I try to stay
Mm-hmm.
neutral. Yeah, I'm going to lean one way or the other, but I'm going to
You're
let
just
the
gonna call
evidence.
out the
That
BS.
evidence is going to
Yeah.
lead me, right? I'm not just going to be
Mm-hmm.
led by the masses because in the end, that evidence is going to lead me regardless. And I hope that all jurors are like that. We've had that conversation so many times. Are the jurors like that? Are they like us? Can they just
Mm-hmm.
evaluate the evidence as it's unpacked and decide, no matter what you feel
Right.
going into it? Going into Karen Reed, I legitimately thought there's a chance she could have hit him. I don't think that arm injury matches up to a car
Mm-mm.
accident, but there's a chance because I never heard the first expert testify.
I
Not
didn't
one
either,
time.
but then the way they were just changing in the middle of a trial, the information they were giving, it's like, like if
Well,
you're positive of your evidence and you're
yeah,
going to show your evidence, it shouldn't change. It should be
right.
what it is.
And there was that, and the validity of the experts that were testifying.
Mm-hmm.
And the methods they chose to use, how they did it, and all of their little videos and explanations of what they did, and beyond scientific reasonable doubt, however they word that. Um, yeah, I still felt like, without a doubt, hands down, the defense had the better witnesses for that.
And even if you leave out the what they call the conspiracy theory of it all, and
Hmm.
you take that equation out of it, you're still left with shitty evidence
And you know what
to
was
begin
beautiful
with.
about that? Right, because and you just nailed it. And what the beautiful thing about that was, the defense alluded to that in the opening statements. You're going to hear how
Mm-hmm.
John O'Keefe went into that home. Did we hear anybody testify to that? No, but what we did hear is phone data to back that up.
Right.
And we heard him try to re-insinuate that each time that was brought up, and to drive that home, that someone took 36 steps. There was 84 feet traveled with this phone towards the door. All you
Mm-hmm.
gotta do is put that in that jury's mind. This man could have walked to that front door. And that's
Well, they,
exactly what that phone data says. I don't care what these are people saying, well, they should just trust the data. Like, excuse me. I was grabbing my data notes every time I turned
mm-hmm.
around, especially when I heard a new data point. I'm like, wait. That conflicts with so and so's testimony on a certain time frame. So don't come at me with look at the data, because the data doesn't line up.
Right. Well, their own experts contradicted each other,
They kept
and then
canceling each other, didn't they?
yeah, yeah, and then she noticed. This juror noticed the DNA about it being from
Okay,
different
so let's go ahead and
sources.
all right, well, let's go ahead and
Talk
start
about it.
watching her. I want to also, we're going to watch Karen Reed's dad, because man,
Mm,
he's
yeah,
every girl's he reminds me of my dad, right?
me
And
too.
yeah, he's so, I think we all can, even if you have an uncle, if you didn't have the benefit of having the dad in your life and you got the bonus dad. I had two, my dad and my
Mm-hmm.
bonus dad. I've got my uncles, I've got the family. Y'all got somebody that got
Mm-hmm.
your grandpa, whatever, that he reminds you of somebody, right? And
Right.
that strength, that pillar of strength, the family. Um, it was interesting to see what he had to say. But let's take a look at this juror. What was this juror 11? Paula Prada is her name. And she is a native of Brazil, right? She's Brazilian. I believe that's where she
Yes.
that's where she has her attorney's license. She is
Mm-hmm.
licensed in Brazil, but she does not practice in the US. And so I'm assuming this juror who served on a jury in the United States of America, I'm assuming she's here legally. It's Petro,
Right.
you fucker.
I know, right? Asshole.
Okay, let me pull this up, guys. Okay. Thank you guys for joining us today and hanging out with us. We're unpacking some of this Karen Reed stuff that we've had built up for what was it, 33 or 34 days of trial, and how many days of verdict watch? 3, 4? Can't. It's all a blur. It's all a
Friday,
blur.
Saturday, Sunday. Three,
Yeah,
4 days. Yeah.
it's all a blur now. So
Mm-hmm.
people are starting to speak out. We have had a couple of, well, two jurors I think have spoke out altogether. There's been interviews dropped. We haven't heard much from Alan Jackson except for we played a little bit earlier. Haven't heard anything from Karen yet. There's a news clip of her at the restaurant, saying hi to everyone. And then Proctor has spoke with the media, and so have the McCabe's and the Alberts, right? So those interviews are dropping. So what we had so far, Rach, help me out here. Butterfly, we had a Dateline has already dropped, right? And then a 2020 episode, I
Mm-hmm.
believe, and a
Yeah.
Nightline episode, if I'm not
I didn't know
mistaken.
that one.
Yeah, those are the three. So an ABC 2020, an ABC Nightline, and then the Dateline episodes.
Okay.
You guys have to check your listings or whatever for that. But I believe those are the 3 episodes that dropped. And I can't even tell you right off the top of my head which one had which on them. I have to go look at the clips we're going to review. But this was the juror here Juror number 11. Let's take a listen to what she had to say. And this was an interview that she did. Now, they used this on the NBC Boston 10 as well as NBC Today. They both had the same exact interview because I double checked.
One of the jurors who helped decide Karen Reed's fate. Ms. Prado, good morning to you. As I understand it, you're also a lawyer by training in Brazil. So there's a distinction here. Sometimes jurors say, okay, we think she is innocent. And sometimes they say, we think she's not guilty. The prosecutors just didn't prove the case. For you, which one was it? Do you believe that Karen Reed was innocent?
Yes, I do believe she was innocent. I believe if it was a collision, this collision was very little and wasn't enough to cause the death of John O'Keefe. So for me, it was for the past 3 weeks, I was very confident to say that she was not guilty and she's not responsible.
So Paul, if you believe that, if you believe she was in fact innocent, what do you think happened to John O'Keefe that night?
That's a trick question because I can't prove anything. But I do believe he died inside the house. Something may happen in front of the house when she dropped him off, because she woke up saying, maybe I hit him, look at my taillight. She made this connection of the taillight being cracked with he not being home. So maybe she did hit something when she dropped him off, and as she drove off like mad, going home upset because he didn't came back from the house. I think John O'Keefe went inside the house and something happened.
See, they considered the same thing we considered. Could she have hit him and drove away mad? Did they have a
Right.
the same things we considered and factored in to, yeah, could have, but still, no.
There's
And
not
we-
enough
yeah,
there.
not enough. That doesn't mean anything happened, right? And no evidence of that. There was not even evidence. There was an argument between the two of them, between the waterfall and the house. And I
Right.
think if there was an argument between Karen Reed and John from the waterfall where they were not arguing at, by the way, we have video footage that shows they were fine at that bar. But did something happen between the waterfall and Fairview? If it did, you know what it was? It was Brian Higgins. I don't want to go there, John, if that dude's going to be there. But I'm going
Right.
to go hang out, Karen. Well, fuck you. You go inside by yourself, buddy.
There.
What do you think of the defendant herself? You were able to watch her live in the courtroom day after day, but she did not take the stand. Do you wish she had? And what was your impression of her?
Yeah, at first my impression was she gave me a vibe of being too confident, and that wasn't good for me personally. I expected to see someone more, I don't know, sad or quiet, and she all the time showed herself with she was very calm, she was very participative of her defense, and confident, her looks to the witnesses and to the prosecutor, and everybody around. She was very focused on the trial and very alert of everything that was going on. And after a while, I admire that. I think she was doing what she had.
That's intriguing, the defendant and the attorneys, the judge, all the things we've talked about here. So the way they perceived Karen Reed, I wondered that in the beginning, are they going to perceive her as arrogant, right? Are they perceiving her as arrogant? Are they perceiving her as too comfortable and too in your face and not concerned enough? Are they perceiving her as not having any empathy? But what empathy did you expect her to have, right? Yeah, I'm sure she's had her moments about the loss of the man she loved, but she also has to fight for her life at the same damn time.
Yeah.
So one's going to override the other, and I think her need to fight for herself had to override that other, But still, when you're a jury and you go in there, how are they perceiving her? And it's interesting to see how she evolved into thinking of her. From wondering, what is up with this lady being so strong and maybe a little defensive. Maybe I don't know if that's the right word to use, but then understanding why she's like that, right? As you're
I
going
think,
through the case.
yeah, I kind of felt the same way as her, because when I first saw Karen, before knowing anything else, I
Yeah,
kind of had the same presumptions of
I did
her, like,
too. I'm not gonna lie. Hmm.
and then as the case went along, like you really saw, like I
And
didn't
that's
go,
like, right. Now, are you basing that back on what you saw around the first trial? Because that's what my first impression back then,
yeah,
right?
just seeing her because
Yeah,
I mean, of course I saw her, but I didn't
yeah,
know any of the details except like things that stood out, like the solo cups and a couple of the other things, but I didn't really look deep dive into
right.
it until this one.
Exactly. You're like me. You saw whatever you saw on social media, and that was it.
Mhm.
Right.
Right.
And so I was like, okay, well, that lady does come across a little arrogant, boy.
But
Those
that
wounds
doesn't mean
don't.
she
But
did
then
it.
you look at, right. It doesn't mean anything. Then you look at the other stuff you were seeing, like those wounds on that man's arm. Now that don't jive. And then other
No.
things that we would see in the headlines, none of it ever jived to make me think that woman done anything malicious to start with.
Mm-mm.
So could
No.
they have taken? Could jurors have went in there with a notion that possibility he was hit? Yeah, yeah, obviously, right? But it's
And then
how they got to
and then
those
just her
conclusions. You know?
right. And then just her demeanor during the whole trial. Just think of this. I would have like, can you just step the hell back and give me some room, please? When you have all
Yeah.
these cameras in your face. She didn't do that not once. She stayed
Mm-mm.
calm, nice to
Yeah,
everyone,
I think that
so
was
that
hard
says a
for
lot.
Karen Reed because Karen Reed reminds me of me a little bit. Where
Right.
it's about to come out my mouth, I got to really hold back
Right.
not to say it. But even
But she held her own.
this juror
I don't know if
said
that
though,
makes
even to
sense.
see the way she looked at some of the witnesses, could you imagine which
Yeah.
witnesses Karen was looking at like that?
Mhm. My
They're like,
face would
oh,
not tell a lie, I'm telling you
I
that.
know, right? Her face was like mine too. It can't lie. No matter how you want me to sit here and be
Mm-mm.
quiet, this face cannot lie. And
Right. Let me just purse my lips to keep anything from coming out.
right.
To do for herself. She was, fighting for her life, pretty much.
Paula, there was so much evidence presented over the few weeks that this trial went on. Was there a single piece of evidence that you found as a juror and as an attorney, a single piece of evidence that was the most compelling, that really convinced you she did not do it?
The taillight. So having a close look at the taillight in the deliberation room, they gave us the piece that was originally broken. That taillight, compared with the videos of Karen Reed leaving the house in the morning at 7:07, I think, when she first got out of the house to go look for him, I saw it, and most of us, I think, saw it, like her taillight was red, mostly red, so wasn't compatible with the taillight fully broken that we had in front of us. So that's over there was the reasonable doubt we were looking for.
What about the fact that this trial is so high profile? I mean, there were crowds outside the courthouse every day. In fact, when the verdict was read, you could hear from inside the courtroom, as I'm sure you did, the cheers go up. Were you aware of that? Did that weigh into any of your decision making? How did that play into the dynamic there?
The first time we heard something outside was on the day of the verdict, when we heard them chanting when we said not guilty. Before that, as we drive to the courthouse, the bus would drop us off behind the courthouse and the streets were closed. So honestly, we couldn't see anything or hear anything. And in the courthouse, inside the deliberation room, they covered everything, the windows, so we didn't have a view from outside. Honestly, we knew there were some people there because as we drive around, we see some people in pink, and we imagined that there was some movement inside the courthouse. Outside the courthouse, but we couldn't hear anything. And I had no clue the amount of people that were outside until I come out and watch on the TV last Friday.
Paula, you were visibly...
Last Friday, no, sorry, last Wednesday.
We knew what you meant. But Paula, you were visibly emotional as you left the courtroom. You were in tears. Well, why? Why were you so emotional as you left?
Because I'm a mother, and I've been watching his family over this past 2 months, and I know I can't imagine what they are going through. And as much as I'm confident that we did the right thing and she's not guilty, I feel sorry that justice wasn't served to John O'Keefe and John O'Keefe's family. And it's the reason why I'm coming out and talking to people is to keep the flame going and the supporters going after the DA or whatever they have to do to reopen the case and find who really killed John O'Keefe.
Oh, shit.
Do you have a theory about that?
Oh, shoot. She just straight up called him out.
Mhm.
Reopen the investigation into the death of John O'Keefe. Wow. DePetro's coming at you for sure, sister. No wonder he's playing it hard today. Dang.
Now when I hear her talk, it makes me more pissed at him.
I know. What about this woman tells you she can't speak English
Exactly. See?
or
Understood
understand
everything she
English?
said. Yes.
There's not one word these reporters have asked her that she asked them to even repeat.
He's the one
Because
that's
I didn't
ignorant.
understand. Could you ask differently? Jesus Christ, DePetro, could you not speak? Not
He's
type?
ignorant ass.
May you get finger cramps. He's speaking into his. I didn't want to go too deep with it. That's not cool. You can't. You can't wish. You can't wish bad upon people because karma. She's a
No,
bitch.
but he'll get his karma.
That finger cramps just about as far as I'm willing to go with that one. I think the universe still understands the intent.
Yeah. Mhm.
Can you fake the intent? Like just a little bit, not a whole lot. Okay.
Yeah.
Oh Lord. Right.
I believe, as I said, that he died inside and something happened inside that maybe he could even like accidentally fall and hit his head back. Maybe a little fight to win.
What if he did fall and accidentally unalived himself and punched himself in the face when he went down? Who knows? Will they even care enough to ever find out?
Can they ever find out now? I mean, unless someone confesses,
No,
will
they
they
don't
even be able to prove it now?
There's no investigation into John
Yeah.
O'Keefe's death. You know, the
Mm-mm.
state. Where's Hank's statement at? where's Hank's after speech?
Right.
Speech.
Went inside because we saw videos on last bar they were where him and Brian Higgins were like making gestures that they would talk after.
Oh.
So I can't say for real, but I believe something happened inside the house.
Oh.
Critical thinkers in that courtroom.
They weren't watching Microdots, were they? They didn't get the narrated version, did they?
Right?
With that dramatization music, as Ann Taylor would say. Good for them, right? Dolphin. I looked up and your avatar is it just because it's not really big on my screen right now. It looked like dolphins up there. But yeah, isn't that crazy? I'm still having a hard time with the old damn DePetro's bullshit. Where's
me too.
Where's Meatball's speech, Vixie? Right? Where is it? Hank will take his money and run. Go on, take the money and run. He might. He's special prosecutor. He's got other folks to prosecute, right? He'll hand down a bunch of indictments by the end of the day because he's indictment angry, or what?
Maybe they'll throw Proctor under the bus next.
Right, he's in there writing up a big old
He's
long.
the next scapegoat.
Damn Proctor blew my whole case with his stupid ass text messages.
Fascinating.
Yeah, very interesting, Paula, to have your perspective.
We won't talk about those other messages from those other people. Yeah, we will here soon. Yeah, we will.
Perspective, thank you. And jury service is not easy, so I'm sure the judge thanked you, but it is appreciated. Thank you.
Her perspective, especially.
Yes, ma'am. Thank you for your time and your
common sense.
Your common sense, because without that common sense, right, added to your critical thinking skills on top of that, and your ability to see reasonable doubt and
facts over feelings.
Yeah, reasonable is the key word. Now, is it
Mhm.
reasonable for me just to think something else could have happened? That's yeah, but to what degree? What else could have happened if she didn't hit him?
Mhm.
What else could have happened? Well, here's what
Right.
else could have happened, and well, that's reasonable, right? When you hear the story. If it had been some
Mhm.
weird story that didn't make no sense,
Right.
it would be like, what? Like, I was out stargazing and
Well, they determined the evidence didn't make sense.
my alibi is I was stargazing alone
I was counting the snowflakes as
in
they
the dead of night.
fell out of the sky.
That's a good one. I couldn't count sheep. It wasn't working, so I decided to go count the snowflakes. Damn it, man.
Mhm.
Okay. Um, wow. I'm gonna have to revisit that whole alibi thingy. It's like I got a suspicion. I'm watching the page, guys, of the private investigator who was going to go out and search for the K-bar knife in the Brian Koberger case. Remember, we shared that information the other day.
Mhm.
Private Eye, Jason Jensen.
Yeah, I'll be right back.
Okay, I had learned of him in the Delphi case. So his team worked for the defense in that case on a few things. But anyway, he was conducting this search out there in Moscow. And I need to go do a check for an update here in a little bit. Okay, we're going to move into the next piece that I had for you guys. Now, this juror is going on Turtle Boy's show on Sunday. Juror number 11 here, Miss Prada Paula. Prada. Cool. So Turtle Boy will have an interview with her on Sunday. Rachel, was it you that said who's getting the attorneys? Who did you mention earlier was getting the attorneys? Was it Alessi and Yannetti? Grab that link if you don't mind and drop it into the chat as well, so
Yeah.
everybody can
She
go.
did.
Oh, y'all
Yeah, she
did?
did.
Okay, cool,
Mhm.
cool. I just missed it then. You guys link it to me in Discord, so I'll have it as well, so we can watch that. Because it'd be interesting to see what they have to say, right? I always love
Mhm.
to see what the attorneys, what they, what we think they might think of, and what they actually think of. Sometimes can be very different. When I
Right.
watched the Delphi defense attorneys talk after the case, it was like, wow, okay, I kind of understood things maybe a little better than I did, but also their frustration was so obvious. But anyway,
Yeah.
okay, so we have some. Oh, Runkle, that's right, Runkle.
Yeah.
Thank you, thank you, thank you, thank you, guys. Yeah, so he's been on with Bob and Allie. What was it? The last couple of days of Verdict
Mhm.
Watch, was it? We were doing Verdict
Yeah.
Watch because we weren't live. That's usually where Butterfly and I were hanging. I think Rachel's probably over there. That's where we were hanging out when I was up doing things around the house. I'd have them on the background, and they had some great panels going on, didn't they?
Yep.
They
Yeah,
really
great
did.
lives.
Yeah, they did, and so that's cool that he got them to come on. That's really super cool. Okay, so this one was it's like a 16-minute interview. It's just Karen's dad, and it was it was hours after the verdict in his yard. And the other one that NBC dropped is her dad and her brother, but it was like the next day. So I wanted to play you a little of the fresh, raw emotion of her dad, like hours after the verdict was read. Let me back it up and make sure it's at the beginning. Because I've never really heard her dad talk a lot. I've never, watched any interviews and all the things. I observed him in court every day, and he did what I expected a father to do, right? That believed in his child. So I never felt any kind, and I just to say I felt the same way for John O'Keefe's mom. I didn't feel any kind of way
Mhm.
toward that lady. I swear I didn't. Those thoughts did not enter my head. That is just a lady over there who's already lost two adult children, which is so unnatural. I can't even imagine. Um, So I don't know how to feel about her, except I feel
Yeah.
sorry for her, right? And now she's got to go deal with what she's got to deal with. But at the same time, I also can have a lot of respect for Karen Reed's family
Mhm.
for fighting for their daughter. And I'm not saying that John O'Keefe's family mother didn't fight for him. She's believing
Right, the wrong
what
people.
well, she's believing what the
Playing
investigation
into
and yeah, the prosecutors are telling her, right? It is what it is. I got to leave that alone. But
Mhm.
watching this and really getting to hear him and the kind of man he is, and the way he can conducts himself, I got a lot of
Right.
respect for him. So, especially
I
after
mean, none of
observing
them
him,
ever, neither
yeah,
of them said anything bad about like the family,
no,
which
he's
tells me
never,
a lot.
yeah, he never displayed any kind of disrespect anywhere, right? That I could
Right.
tell, and nobody ever like went after this guy about anything, and all the things.
Mhm.
So it was interesting to watch him after observing him like we did for like a month, right? Um,
Mhm.
Hank says, "I like in another interview he wore a Lexus shirt." Is that the one where where his son? 'Cause we have that clip. If it's the same one, because is dressed different. I have that one as well. If it's the same one. All right. So, like I said, this was just hours after the verdict was read, and he was back at home.
Feeling very elated, grateful to God for this ending. It's been a long 3.5 years. Long time coming, but while we've seen the worst in humanity over the last 3.5 years with the corruption, we've also seen the best in mankind, particularly the women. So many women out there, standouts at the courthouse over this week, in the hundreds. I know state police estimated there were about 3,000 people there today. And so many women identify with Karen because at some point in their lives, they have been objectified and dehumanized or victimized in some way or another. And with Karen, they see that strength and that courage to fight against the government that has, unlimited resources. And so it's been a great win for us. We've got, Karen's incredible fight, fortitude, strength, and willingness to persevere and not give in. And, she assembled a remarkable team of talented and passionate attorneys. David Yannetti was our first on board, then Alan Jackson and Liza Little from L.A., and more recently, Bob Alessi. So we're just blessed to have this dream team of attorneys fighting for us. And I think a lot of that passion on there.
He comes across as like a really gentle kind of guy. Like that's his personality, just
Right.
not
He
super,
keeps
he's
you
not
grounded.
aggressive, right? Yeah, he's
Right.
not aggressive in nature like some other people we're gonna look at here in a little
Yeah.
bit. They just appear to be like, ugh, like in your face aggressive
Yeah.
people, and you're like, whoa, slow down, sister. Um, he's such the opposite, you know.
Mhm.
But do I see Karen being as calm as her dad? No. Karen
No.
to me is that girl who's upbeat, the life of the party. She'll talk to you. Me and her could probably talk all freaking night, right? Because I'm a talker and Karen Reed's a talker. So I think we just chatted up all damn night long. We'd lose all track of time.
Mhm.
We're those kind of women. Karen was probably very outgoing, it appears, and there's nothing wrong with that. I'm not super outgoing, but I'm very friendly when I decide to go out. It has to be my
Right.
choice. I have to be in the mood, and I treat people very kind. You know what I mean? Especially the elder and all the things. I'm
Yeah.
like out there being God's little angel, running
Until
around
until until
inspiring.
they're not. Until they're not, then I match your
No,
energy. So.
no, you exactly. Don't make me match that energy. Do not make me match that energy. You don't want none of that. And
Right.
it's tiring, to get out there and people. It's what I call it. I have to go people.
Mhm.
Let me go back to my sanctuary. But he just comes across as a right, gentle is the right word.
Yeah.
Part there, that expertise that was unshakable that they brought to the courtroom was because they knew Karen was factually innocent. And that was, we're very fortunate. I mean, other folks who may find themselves in the throes of law enforcement and be factually innocent themselves, may not have that fortune or good blessing to have this type of attorneys and this part of, this immensity of support out there. Again, just the people who have turned out in support for us is just very gratifying and heartwarming. And at a time in my life over the last 3 years, I've lost a lot of respect for what goes on in some of these communities. So I'll leave it at that.
How has it been? You talked about the struggles. I'm sure it's been a very tough time. It's 4 years that you and Karen and the family have been fighting. How has it been to fight the accusations, to have to fight that, despite knowing what you and the family felt was true and the defense team? How has that been for you and the family?
The accusations really didn't trouble us. I drove that Karen's vehicle home that day. It was parked right here when it was seized by Michael Proctor, the now fired and disgraced Michael Proctor of the Massachusetts State Police. I know the condition of that taillight.
Love the dig.
And
I was about to say, what he meant to say was, how dare that bastard talk about my daughter like that?
Exactly.
But a gentleman isn't going to say that. Wait till he sees him in person. It might be a whole
Right.
other story, right?
Right.
That's my dad. I don't know. My dad's a very subdued, gentle type guy, but don't get him fired up about one of his daughters.
Yeah, same here. My
Don't
dad was
do
like
it.
that.
Yeah, don't do it. He's got, heck, I got to count us in my head. I have 1, 2, 3 brothers, and I have 3 sisters. That's right. So we have 4
Yeah.
girls. Yeah. So don't make daddy come at you over the girls. These
Mhm.
boys, here I go. I got to back these boys up, I guess, but don't come after them girls.
Right.
Yeah. He's very well spoken. You guys are. He's intellectual
And protective.
subdued. Yeah, exactly. And that's the thing. If your child's accused of something, and I've had this conversation with people before, because there are people out there, face it, who have children who are adult children who have been charged with heinous crimes. How would you feel if it was your child, right? In the back of your mind, are you like, oh my God, I always knew it was going to happen? Or are you, there's no damn way?
Right.
And how far do you go to support your child, and how you're whatever. Even if people think your child's guilty, you may still 100% back your child. So I never give parents shame on whatever way they decide to go.
Right.
So
They're a kid. So
right.
they have that right.
He honestly, I think, like Karen had said in one of her interviews, that when she talked to her dad, or I think it might have been him, and it must have been a thing with them when she was growing up, but she had said to him, well, Dad, if I did something wrong, I have to take my medicine, right? Like,
Mhm.
I think she would have been
Right.
honest with her dad. And I think she probably was. Could I have
Right.
hit him? Did I have hit him? I don't know, Karen. We're going to figure this out. And
Mhm.
it started rolling. And I think if the evidence had shown that, yeah, she probably did do this, he probably would have been like, look, here's the best route. I think he would have guided her through
Right.
that as well.
Being accountable. Right.
Yeah, I don't think I'm misreading that, right? Do you get the same impression that,
Mhm.
yeah, I think it would be the same way.
Know that the injuries to John O'Keefe, including those dog bites, were not the result of Karen Reed's vehicle.
He said, including those dog bites. Not no if.
Right.
Those were dog bites.
Backing into him. I drove it home in that snowstorm. So when you've got that belief and assurance that your loved one is factually innocent, then you've got to fight with everything you've got to see this through to a just ending. And there have been times it's very, very difficult, because law enforcement and the government has unlimited resources through their ability to tax people. And
Did it feel so? Are you saying, did it feel to you like it was you against this entity that you guys were fighting, you and Karen and the family?
Well, there's no doubt about it. You know, the law enforcement has power, and it's difficult to put down that power. But I think so many folks saw this situation for what it was, a setup, a frame-up, and push back. And when society pushes back, and you get courageous men and women who are willing to take a stand, you know, a case in point would be Officer Nick Barrows, who was brought here on that Saturday and testified in court that the condition of that taillight was not as what was shown to him in court in the Sally Port of the Canton Police Department. So that's just one example. And, you know, you look at the Department of Justice was involved in this case from the early on. They were the ones who hired the ARCA scientists. And it was those scientists that determined the injuries to John O'Keefe were not the result of being struck by Karen Reed's vehicle, or that Karen Reed's vehicle, the damage to it, all right, was the product of being struck by a 216-pound, 6'1" man. And yet, even with that type of strong, objective, independent evidence, and I mean, truly, they were hired by the Department of Defense, U.S. Attorney here in Massachusetts. They also provided us with the text.
The man knows his facts, right? And he also, like he's about to say, they provided the text, the famous Proctor text.
Michael Proctor. Without that, much of this might not have come to light.
Sure.
You know, I mean, the idea that he's been fired from the Massachusetts State Police, the lead detective on this case, fired for his conduct, his bias in this specific case. And, you know, it's something. That's remarkable. So there are some strong people out there, and some, all right, we're so, you know, grateful to them all. Prayers, all right, from so many.
What, in all these 4 years that you've been going through this ordeal, what has held your family together? Where has found? Obviously, Karen has had you as support, but how has the family come together? How hard has it been for the family?
Well, we're very mindful of our finite presence here on this earth. So, you know, we are churchgoers, we're Roman Catholics, we're believers in Jesus Christ, his mother, and we are dedicated followers of the church, and we pray daily. And if you don't have that, there's something, you know, that is very difficult then to come to grips with things. So we just continue to believe that God Almighty would see us through this, and he has, as you can see. I mean, this is a very glorious day for us and this family.
Overall, I know you, I spoke to your wife, Karen, how are you all feeling today after?
Elated. I mean, for the last 3+ years I've been in this house knowing the unlimited reach of the government. And always you hear a door shut, right? You hear a horn. You go to your window because you never know, all right, the next step they're apt to take. And so there's relief. It's finality to it all. And I thank so many hundreds of thousands of people who have come and said prayers for us, sent us texts, letters, flowers. Just so gratified. Again, I've seen the worst in mankind over the last 3.5 years, but I've seen the best in humanity.
Yes, absolutely. I'm sure. Today, Karen said, in one of the things she said is that no one has fought harder for justice for John than she has. Would you be able to comment on that, on what she feels that and how she's been fighting for justice to find the real person?
Well, it's certainly not the task of this family, nor for Karen. I mean, for the idea that Karen fought back against these charges and fought vehemently and strongly, and we went into debt. She sold her house. She lost 2 jobs, Fidelity and at Bentley University, where she was an adjunct. Cashed out her 401. She fought to liberate herself.
Now, do you think they're going to reimburse Karen Reed for any damages? No. But she's now facing a civil suit brought on by the family. Because remember, OJ was charged in a civil suit and was ordered to pay, but was not found guilty of murder. And now, so the family's now turned around and filed suit against Karen Reed. Like, what do they think they're going to get now? What do y'all think you're going to get from this woman, whatever she earns for the rest of her life? When she literally has to rebuild everything now, lost it all. Not only her jobs, both, but her home, her car, her career, her financial stability, her savings, her retirement. Jesus. Talk about getting blood from a fucking turnip. My God.
To free herself, and in so doing, freeing herself, essentially cast a light on, well, what happened then if it's not her? Don't forget, she's now been freed, all right? Even though the first trial, because the decision of the jury was not made public, twice she's been found not guilty of murder. And so, these jurors had been at it for hours in their deliberations and weeks listening to testimony. And so, it's when she says she's fought for John O'Keefe, she's fought for her own freedom and getting back her name. And in so doing, it's opened up the eyes of those in the media and just casual observers. Why is she fighting so hard? She could take a plea, but she'd refused to ever take a plea for something she did not do.
Was there ever any doubt?
Never.
In the families?
Never. Never. Karen would have been the first to say to me, and I was with her at that hospital in the morning, if she had done something wrong, she would have said, Dad, I'll take my medicine. Never. There's never been any doubt. Karen.
So that's where I heard it, was when I previewed this. He just said, if she had done this, she would have said, Dad, I'll take my medicine, right? And I felt like that must have been one of their things that they said to one another, when she was in trouble or whatever. Take your punishment. I don't know. I just felt like he was being super honest. Like, I didn't have any reason to doubt what this man was saying. Karen has lots of lawsuits to file. I hope against Proctor and his wife. Proctor, that guy, does he even have a job, Hank? Right? I mean, it's a doofus. He's a doofus.
Reed is factually innocent. All right, she was found not guilty, but I will tell you she's factually innocent. Look at the body. Look at the wounds, or lack of wounds, aside from the abrasions, all right, from an animal, from a dog to his right arm, and to the deep laceration on the back of his head. Look at there's nothing else. There's no bruises, broken bones, torn ligaments. If he was struck by a 6,000-pound SUV, which my daughter was driving, you'd see something below the knees, in the torso, around the chest. I mean, we're all reasonable people. Just look. Just look. You're out of Rhode Island, WJAR. You're former Rhode Island medical examiner, state medical examiner, Dr. Elizabeth Laposado, I hope I'm saying that correctly, came and testified. And she said those injuries were not consistent with getting hit by a car. So, it's when you look at the physics, the science that's provided by ARCA, and then you look at the medical testimony and the medical evidence, whether it be from Dr. Elizabeth Posada or from the state of Massachusetts' own medical examiner, Dr. Scotty Bello. She said, all right, that she could not conclude that he wasn't hit by a car. In other words, it's possible. And the abrasions to the arm. And so much so, she could not conclude the manner of death. She could not conclude it was homicide. So, I mean, the evidence was overwhelming, compelling, but still it took us 3.5 years and 2 trials.
How, maybe last question for me, how is Karen feeling?
Elated.
What is the spirit? What is the spirit?
Elated. And also her attorneys. I mean, you know, this was their fight too. I mean, the hours they put in, people see Bob Alessi or Alan Jackson doing a cross. That cross, all right, an order of proof has to be developed over several days. You just can't go in cold. You have to develop that. And same thing with the summation. Alan Jackson's summation, which so many people remarked on, all right, was just, you know, so much on the point. I mean, hours. I know he went through multiple iterations. So,
sure.
Yeah.
Sure.
Does the family want, because I know Karen says she wants justice for John, does the family want the case reopened to figure out what happened here?
We don't have that power to even, you know, make that wish. We just don't. They have had the resources to look at this case over the last 3.5 years. Given they knew the evidence from ACA, they knew the evidence from the medical experts, they knew the public, all right, was upset. Overwhelmingly, the public overwhelmingly upset about what was going on here. Well, they've always had the resources to look at it. So it's, you know, what they choose to do, they'll do. And if they don't, you know, it's now been 3.5 years. How much of that evidence has been destroyed? Who knows? So,
would it be something that she would advocate for?
We just want our lives back. She's got her life back. She's, as she made a statement outside of the court today, I don't know if you were out there. It was incredible, wasn't it? By her fighting for her freedom, fighting for her factual innocence, through multiple hearings over the last 3.5 years, 2 trials, that was her, if you will, her statement that not only am I factually innocent and I am being wrongfully accused and charged here, but other eyes need to be brought on this to look at this. So,
last question, I'll let you go because I know you guys covered a lot already. Getting her life back, what does that even look like now?
I don't think our lives will ever be the same. You know, I mean, this case started off, it was once a time we had trouble generating media interest in this, and now, you know, it's become a national, if not international, sensation. And why? Why? Is it because there's a Hollywood attorney involved, a relatively young, successful woman? No, it's because of, all right, all of the dynamics associated with that. What happened? All right, a cop lost his life, found on the lawn of another cop. All right, and you've seen much of the testimony, and then alleged cover-up, corruption, has all of the facets for something that's so intriguing as well as alarming. So, okay.
Thank you.
All right.
You've had the day, right? Yes, that was interesting. That was the interview that is that, I was looking at his shirt. Is that the Lexus shirt?
I think so. Just gonna say that.
So yeah, that was interesting. I mean, because there was so much that so much of their lives was consumed with all of this, and it was one thing to get through one darn trial, but to turn around and have to do it all over again. And to feel that same pressure and to finally have it lifted, you know what I mean? It has to be like the weight of the world is finally gone and you can finally take a breath. And like her dad, talks about how even hearing a horn or hearing a noise, what's that outside? Is somebody lurking? Are we being watched? But not by like just social media, but by the cops as well, by the
Mhm.
investigators and things like that. All the things that go on that we don't really consider because it's not talked about a lot, until they talk about it. Um,
Right.
so to hear that aspect is like going back and listening to Kay Woodcock talk about the precautions she had to take before Lori Vallow was ever arrested and charged with anything, right?
Right.
What was Lori going to do next? Who was next?
Mhm.
Right? There was so much that we weren't aware of that was going on behind the scenes. It's insane.
Right.
And that kind of just shed a little insight onto some of that. And then, on the flip side, what was John O'Keefe's family going through? So with all the
Mhm.
people who are demanding, and I say demanding when I see some of these news outlets interviewing, they're almost like there's almost like an undertone, but it's like a demand that she fight for John O'Keefe. And I'm thinking at some point she had to fight for Karen Reed, and at some point
Mhm.
John O'Keefe's family needs to fight for John O'Keefe.
Yeah, it doesn't. Just wonder why they don't have the same questions that all of us
Right.
do.
Because of my child, I'm fighting. I don't care. I
Like
don't
I
care.
want to know everything. I'm not going to just take
And
the
the
word
state,
of.
well, if the state shows crappy evidence and then the
Mhm.
jury one time can't make a decision and then the second time, oh, we got one. Oh, no, we don't. Just joking. Oh, wait, we finally
Right.
got it. And it's not guilty. So now I'm
Mhm.
looking at y'all going, so you want me to believe the defense just got up there and put on a pretty boy face and made a cute story and they bought it? Is that what
Yeah.
you're about to tell me? Hey, that's all that happened here? Without me side-eyeing every damn one of y'all now that's been telling me the opposite for 3.5, 4 years? No, I'm about to come out fighting mad. So at some point it
Mhm.
has to be, it shifts. Don't shift this to Karen, shift it where it belongs, to the
Right.
family, to fight for their loved one, to go up against whatever's going on in this small town.
Mhm.
Um, because that kind of stuff does divide a town a lot of times. Because all the
Yeah.
players, all the
And they could
players
be so.
involved are out there protecting each other, and it's the haves and the have-nots.
Yeah. And
You
they
know
could be just so stuck in their grief that they don't see anything else. That's all
exactly,
they think of.
exactly. That's true. They could just be stuck right there, and maybe that's fine if they'll probably just sit right there and be quiet, right? They're not the ones out here doing interviews right now. No shame to Karen's
Mhm.
parents. I'm talking about the McCabe's and the Alberts, the fuckers. They taught, they spoke. So before we watch this, 'cause this is a lengthy one as well. This is 12 minutes. Here, let me show you guys the one with the McAlberts. The McAlberts.
Mm. Let me take my blood pressure medicine. Just kidding.
Yeah, y'all remember deep breath. We had a not guilty verdict, so it's all
You saw
good. Yeah, take them with a grain of stinking salt. Um, trying to let them get to you. Um, Now, this is not the entire thing, of course. This is from ABC News exclusive that they did, and it's a really nice. It's a 7 and almost 8 minute piece interview with the four of the. Well, there's five of them all together. There's the McCabe's, Jen and Matt, and then we have Albert, Brian, and his wife. What's her name? Is that Nicole? Is that her name? Jen's sister. And then we have the McAlbert brother, the other Albert guy. Who is it? Chris. Let's see. Anyway, it's the gang. They're
Right.
all here, minus Higgins. And then we'll take a. There's been a few little pieces dropped on the interview with Proctor, and we'll take a look at a few snippets of that too before we go for the day here in a little bit. But right now, we're going to look at this. Now, this is was this on their 2020 or their Nightline? I can't remember. The 2020, I think, not the Nightline. Somewhere on ABC. Go, we can go find it. Anyway, you haven't seen. Don't let it infuriate you too bad, Rachel. I mean, you guys, you know, Try not to, but I feel you. I get it. Trust me. All right, so I'm going to let this play and I won't interrupt. Well, I can't promise that. Hold on.
Right after we hear what they say, I'm sure.
Hold on. I can't promise that. I'll try not to interrupt at key parts.
That's
has
the
let
best
us
part,
down
then.
at every turn. And yesterday was the final letdown. And that's why we're here.
Here, wait a minute. Okay.
The criminal justice system has let us down at every turn. And yesterday was the final letdown. And that's why we're here, because there's nobody left to stand up for us.
Think real long and hard before you're a witness in a case, because no one protects you.
Oh,
And
what was
it's
me?
Wow. Right out of the gate.
Or me.
Look at that face. Right out of the gate.
Yeah.
Think
Or
long and
me.
hard. Think long and hard before becoming a witness, because nobody protects you.
Sometimes you don't
Protects
have
you. And
a say so.
Well, here,
Like if
I
you have
get
a
it.
choice.
I get it, because a lot of these high-profile cases, witnesses are sought out.
But I think they would have been sought out regardless
They
because they're
would
the
have been.
homeowners.
They would have been. And for them, just the whole and he's over there hollering about justice.
Yeah.
Excuse me?
First responder cop.
Justice.
They couldn't get out of bed.
very sad.
For the first time, some of the key players in the Karen Read trial sitting down for an exclusive interview. His friend, Jennifer McCabe, and her husband, Matt, former Boston Police Sergeant Brian Albert, and his wife, Nicole, and his brother, Chris Albert. All five of them pulled into the center of this high-profile case and now speaking out.
And I think the reason we all stayed quiet is because we were just witnesses. This is a thing that we had nothing to do with.
We did the civic duty, came and told the truth, and that's it.
Free Karen Read! It's the case that has captivated the country and divided a town. Karen Read, accused of killing her Boston police officer boyfriend, John O'Keefe, hitting him with her SUV and leaving him to die in a blizzard.
Not guilty. Not guilty.
Now, after a second trial, a jury acquitting her of the most serious charges, second-degree murder and manslaughter. And hundreds of supporters in pink, Karen Read's favorite color, cheering as the verdict came down yesterday.
I could not be standing here without these amazing supporters.
People turned this thing into a tailgate party, it looked like, some days. Board games, cornhole, cookouts. This is a guy that was murdered, and it's atrocious for that family.
While the prosecutors blamed Read for O'Keefe's death, the defense said this group of family members framed Read to cover up what really happened that night. Ever since, their lives becoming open season for endless conspiracy theories.
What they've done is they've dehumanized us to the sense where we're not real people. We're almost like caricatures. We're pawns.
Have each of you been called murderers? Like actual murderers?
Oh, yeah, on a daily basis.
Anybody who's touched this case has been called a murderer at some point.
And anyone who's friends with us support cop killers. Yeah.
After 3+ years, the saga wrapped up yesterday. Read captured celebrating at dinner with her father, and today seen walking with her attorney, Alan Jackson.
Well, they're just a gang of look at us. I mean, I get it if you feel legit like you've been bothered by a bunch of people calling you names and stuff, but I don't know. The way they treat this has been odd to me all along. The way they've treated all this, like the way they didn't even go to the man's funeral, but that they're so concerned about justice for their friend. It's always been weird. Like, can we ask them about those text messages and what those actually meant by saying the guy didn't go in the house? Don't just ask him, did he go in the house? Ask him, well, what about this text message, though? What's that mean?
Right.
I certainly would. Right, wouldn't you? If I was that ABC newsman, come on, dude, you know better. They're going to tell you he never went in the house. And, well, what does this message mean that was talked about in court? It was actually entered into court, so I got fair game to ask about it. All right, I would have asked him about it. Of course, we stop it and restart it. Okay.
I didn't even know I'd be here today, so I had no plans.
Meanwhile, O'Keefe's family and friends struggling with the verdict.
I'm just sad for John's family and what happened yesterday, and I feel like they didn't get justice for him, and our lives just changed forever.
Why speak out now after the verdict?
We took what we thought was the high road.
Right.
Let the court do its job.
Lord.
After a night of hanging out at a local bar in a brutal 2022 blizzard, Brian and his wife Nicole hosted a late-night gathering at their home. An invitation had been extended to Reed and O'Keefe, but Brian Albert says neither of them ever entered his home that night. O'Keefe was found lying unconscious in the snow of Albert's front lawn. He was pronounced dead at the hospital hours later. The defense's theory? A violent altercation at the Alberts' home, possibly involving other members of law enforcement. Did John ever come in the house?
Never. No.
You never saw John O'Keefe in the house, right?
Never.
Never. Never.
These are people.
I noticed when they asked this question, when you look at Brian Albert's wife, the shrug she makes, she shrugs. Instead of affirming no, never came in my house. Hold on, let me see. Will it go back? Hang on.
Let me see what.
Yeah, hang on.
People in your own community. Never saw John O'Keefe in the house, right?
Never.
Never. Never. Never. No.
You never saw John O'Keefe in the house, right?
let me-
Location at the Alberts' home, possibly involving other members of law enforcement. Did John ever come in the house?
Never. No.
You never saw John O'Keefe in the house, right?
Never.
Never. Never.
These are people.
She kind of she just blank face for a minute, and then makes a shrug, and he just out of the gate, never. She's all like, no, and nobody else says a word, and I'm like, y'all need to defend those text messages now. Now's the time to bring that up, sir.
Yep.
Come on, I've been watching you a long time too. You know what you're freaking doing. Ask them about the damn messages. That's what I want to know.
Right.
Bizarre behavior, and it gets worse, especially with Brian's excuses.
People in your own community who believe the conspiracy theories, who believe that there were other law enforcement officials and agents involved in this. Why is it people in your own community who believe these conspiracy theories?
You do realize for this conspiracy to be true, it would take 30 to 50 people.
Wouldn't.
Well, close enough.
Well, the thing is that
we saw a parade.
You have the initial group, which creates a narrative, which is the Boston cop thing. So then they not agree, but they can convince them that.
Well, considering the background of some of these cops,
right?
Alleged. Let me say it differently. Because of some of the alleged background, it wouldn't have been hard to find 30 culprits.
Right.
Like within the force of different, you know what I mean? Agents, you know what I mean? All the things to kind of back it up. So maybe 30 to 50 is exaggerating, and he knows it. It just takes a couple. It takes the 5 of you sitting there, actually.
Right.
Conspiracy born. But he wants us to believe it's going to take the whole town. But no. It's not a far stretch to think 30. 15 are within the immediate family, right? 10 from the house that night. If we go look at it, if we want to break it down. Yeah. So it's just like, come on, dude. Come on. Hold on. He's not done.
You have to have multiple cops on 2 different police departments.
And we did.
Multiple civilians. The medical examiner.
No, not the medical examiner.
That's where
She
yeah, exactly. He didn't. What's happening here? Grandbaby just jumped on his
Firemen,
thing.
EMTs, you name it. That's how preposterous and silly this is. And great question. I don't understand how people bought this.
Brian Albert says he and Nicole only found out about John's death when Jen McCabe, who is Nicole's sister, barged into their bedroom.
She was just
Barged
upset,
in.
and I
With no dog.
immediately thought something had happened to one of her children or one of my children, because why else is she in my bedroom at 6:30 in the morning right now?
And what did she tell you?
She said, John's out front. I think John's dead out front. I said,
they slept with
what
their
the
phones
are you
in.
talking about, Jen? And I'm like, who? I didn't know.
You still didn't piece it
I
together.
didn't understand what she was talking about, because why would John be out front of my house?
So massively confusing.
So yeah, Jen's sitting there, and he's like, "What the fuck are you doing in my room, Jen? This makes no sense." John's out front. I think he's dead. And then
And she's looking at him when he's talking.
Yeah.
Like, what are you saying? Make sure you
Yeah,
say it
like,
right.
no, they rehearsed it, they already knew. Yeah, she was just looking
Mhm.
to make sure, but it's like well, that's what he said, though. He's like, "I'm just looking at Jen like, what the fuck are you doing in my house? This makes no sense." Yeah, she called you. She said she
Mhm.
testified that she ran into the house, ran upstairs, and ran into their room. Yeah,
I
no,
did hear
they
testimony
didn't
from.
answer twice. The dog never barked. They never woke up to the sound of a siren or the lights
I did
flickering
see.
outside the window. Go ahead.
Yeah, I did see testimony from the last trial that they said that they both slept with their phones in the bed.
Well, I'm for now. Two adults need to sleep with it in the bed. I don't sleep. Mine beside the bed.
Right.
Occasionally, I'll doze off watching something or listening to something on the phone, and but I wake up and I put it beside the bed because I'll
Mhm.
knock it off in the middle of the night if I don't. Whatever. But for
So
them,
why
like
sleep with
they
it in
don't
your
talk
bed
to
if
each
you're not
other.
hearing it?
Well, that just tells me they're not talking to each other. They're on their fucking
Mhm.
phones all the time
Yeah.
to the point where they fall asleep in the bed with the phone and it's on silent. I have
Right.
kids. My phone's never on silent. Well, it is when I'm
Mhm.
streaming, but other than that, no. Weird. They're just weird. No, but even if you slept through the stupid phone call, okay, you slept through the
Right.
phone call. Not everybody wakes up when the sound of their phone rings, I guess. But you got all this activity out there on your front lawn. We don't want
And you
and
don't go outside.
well, he's going
Somebody
to tell
came
us
in and
why.
said, yeah,
He's going to tell us why he didn't run out that door. It's going to make a whole hell of a lot of sense, right?
mhm.
Okay. Well, let's pretend. Let's
Right.
pretend. So, sister-in-law, baby sister-in-law Jen runs up the stairs, barges into the bedroom, and wake up, man down in front lawn.
There are police officers, EMTs on your front lawn. You're an officer. Why don't you just go outside and investigate or take a look?
I'm not a Canton police officer. I'm a Boston police officer. I was
And
just woken up out of a cold sleep
You're
from
law
hanging out the
enforcement.
night before. By the time I came downstairs, the police were already in my house. John was already gone. There was nobody to save. I would have taken a bullet for John O'Keefe because he was a fellow
Whatever.
cop. That's the most ridiculous question that people always ask. It made zero sense. What am I supposed to do? Run out front in my underwear and start running yellow tape around the fire hydrant?
Over the course of the night, Reed called and texted John 52 times. She then called Jen asking for help to find John. Karen previously telling me she and John had gotten into an argument that night. Would you say that you were angry with John that night?
Yes.
Could you have been angry enough and slightly drunk because he had annoyed you that in the fit of rage you just backed up and
Never.
tried to tap him?
Would
Not
never.
to try to kill him, but try to...
when did she get angry with John? Earlier in the day, they were arguing in the text messages about coming out, her getting the plumber, blah, blah, blah. We saw that was all red.
The only angry I saw was when he wouldn't respond to her because she was texting him all those things, but
Right after
as
the
far as
alleged time of
yeah,
the accident.
after
But
right.
prior to that, what led up to her being pissed enough to run him over, there was
Right.
nothing. Because at the bar, we know they had words, exchanged words or moods, whatever you want to call it. They had a whole vibe during that text exchange about the plumber coming over and the way John was treating her, the way she was talking, whatever. And then, but at the bar, they seemed to be just fine. They're on, that relationship thing that toxic
Yeah.
relationship. They're fine at the bar. What triggered a fight? When they left the bar, we're going to go over here and hang out at the Albert's house. I don't want to go if that Higgins guy's going. When they
Yeah.
pull up, Higgins is there. She's not going in. They argue out there in the car. I'm not scared to admit she probably argued with his ass right there in
Right.
front of the house because that dumbass Higgins is in there and I'm not going in there. You two were
Mhm.
already wanting to show your ass with one another and I'm not down with all this. Yeah, that could have happened.
Yep.
To tap him with my 6,000-pound full-size SUV, to hit John's body with my car, no.
I spoke with a juror tonight who told me she believes a collision did not occur.
Overall, a lot of the evidence had caused reasonable doubt, and that was enough for us I'll take it back.
A little after 6 a.m., Karen found John's body in the snow. Jen called 911.
911, what's your emergency?
There's a man passed out in the snow.
Man passed out in the snow, not John.
Hello?
But what raised eyebrows at Reed's trial was a defense theory about a Google search Jen had made about how long it takes to die in the cold. The defense claiming she searched.
So her automatic was the man passed out in the snow, and then you couple that with the weird how long to die in cold. What?
So this is my thing.
I don't know what happened to my friend. He's in the snow, and I don't know.
But why didn't she say he's a Boston cop?
Oh, I don't know why. I can't tell you why that didn't. It's not.
I question that.
I don't know if that would be the first thing. I don't know. Would it be the first thing that come to her mind, just to identify the man as a cop? I don't know if that would come later. Right now, my friend is in the snow, and we don't know what the hell happened. Is he dead or not? I don't know.
Right.
She's automatically going to passed out in the snow, and there's this odd search on her phone about how long it takes to die in the snow. So how do you know he was not dead in the snow already? See, that's what makes the doubt reasonable.
My thoughts exactly, Rachel.
In my mind. So let's see. Ask Brian if he would have taken a bullet for the two officers he sucker punched. Oh, that was Hank's comment. Oh, Hank, he sucker punched some people. That don't surprise me. Why not officer down, need help now? Right? I mean, I don't even know if that would be the first thought. Honestly, who knows? Is she one of the weird panicky women that don't remember nothing? Is she got enough of her mind to say that? I guess if I knew they were a cop, I might identify the person as a cop, because I know that makes a big deal to cops. That's like the whole response thing, right? But I don't know if I make anything of her not IDing him as a cop or not. I don't know. It's the way she describes the situation. It's the way she describes the man. He's passed out in the snow. Meanwhile, where is she standing when she made that call? Because Jen and what's her name, Carrie, they're over there moving snow off his face and grabbing him and CPR, and so she don't even know if he's dead or alive or passed out at that point. Passed out is, you don't need CPR if you're passed out. Right? You can give them something and make them wake up, slap them in the face. Yes, the police officers were on the witness list.
It before O'Keefe's body was found. So much has been made about that Google search that morning. Was it at 6 a.m. or was it at 6:27 a.m.? How long to die in the cold? What's your answer?
She asked me to do it at.
Say what? Fuck, she's doubling down, tripling down, quadruple all the way down. She's gonna die on that hill, y'all. That will be if you Google Jen McCabe, that's probably gonna come up.
Yeah.
Outside of Fayetteville.
I gotta no, lady. The look on her face.
How long for Jen to go down?
She's protected. Little sister is protected. She did the dirty work. Well, come on. What's affecting my playback? It can't be the grandbaby on the gaming thing. I think he got off of it. Hold on, I gotta take it down and refresh it for real.
Wow.
It's stuck. Look, I got swamp signal for the first time. I know. It's like an omen. Like, you did it. I did it. I stopped it on that heifer. Let's see. He's on his game still. Maybe that's got something to do with it. Usually it doesn't affect me, but who knows? Sometimes I run with the swamp signal out here in the country.
Yeah.
But it's okay.
You're good.
Uh-oh. Sometimes I have to just refresh the damn thing once I'm... Okay, here we go. And of course... Okay, It made me lose the place, but I got it back almost where we were at. Okay, we'll let it go now.
John's out front. I think John's dead out front. I said, what the are you talking about, Jen? And I'm like, who? I didn't know.
You still didn't piece it
I
together.
didn't understand what she was talking about, because why would John be out front of my house?
So massively confusing. There are police officers, EMTs on your front lawn. You're an officer. Why don't you just go outside and investigate or take a look?
I'm not a Canton police officer. I'm a Boston police officer. I was just woken up out of a cold sleep from hanging out the night before. By the time I came downstairs, the police were already in my house. John was already gone. There was nobody to save. I would have taken a bullet for John O'Keefe because he was a fellow cop. That's the most ridiculous question that people always ask. It makes zero sense. What am I supposed to do? Run out front in my underwear and start running yellow tape around the fire hydrant?
Yeah.
Over the course of the night, Reed called and texted John 52 times. She then called Jen asking for help to find John. Karen previously telling me she and John had gotten into an argument that night.
Would you say that you were angry with John that night?
Yes.
Could you have been angry enough and slightly drunk because he had annoyed you that in a fit of rage you just backed up and
Never.
tried to tap him?
Would
Not
never
to try to kill him, but try to...
to tap him with my 6,000-pound full-size SUV. To hit John's body with my car. No.
I spoke with a juror tonight who told me she believes a collision did not occur.
Overall, a lot of the evidence had caused reasonable doubt, and that was enough for us not to convict.
A little after 6 a.m., Karen found John's body in the snow. Jen called 911.
911, what's your emergency?
There's a man passed out in the snow.
Hello?
But what raised eyebrows at Reed's trial was a defense theory about a Google search Jen had made about how long it takes to die in the cold. The defense claiming she searched it before O'Keefe's body was found.
So much has been made about that Google search that morning. Was it at 6 a.m. or was it at 6:27 a.m.? How long to die in the cold? What's your answer?
She asked me to do it at outside of Fairview at 6:20, whatever it was. Doesn't matter how much I say about it, people will not believe it.
The group also hoping to clear up rumors regarding the Alberts' dog, Chloe,
No, we
who had
won't.
been
Yes,
rehomed
Chloe.
after the incident. The defense claimed the dog was involved in
Look
O'Keefe's
at that
death.
perfect.
Those wounds were.
Wow, I stopped it at the wrong.
The juror even said, Paula even said she thought they were dog bites.
Yeah, they weren't convinced they weren't, right? That's the thing. You can't convince me that they were, but you may not be able to convince me they weren't either. Because it looks more like a dog bite than it would be explained by a bunch of taillight lens pieces that did what? Randomly broke and then scattered about and found weeks later, here and there, here and yonder. All those pieces, it embedded enough to scratch that man's arm like that. Yeah, okay. All the things. Yeah. It's just the whole thing. They were able to see the things that we were seeing, right?
Those marks are from teeth. They've known for 2 years where Chloe is. The state shared it with them.
So if they wanted to take DNA evidence from Chloe the dog and match it to possible DNA evidence on John O'Keefe, they could have matched it.
Absolutely.
But now with the trial behind them, they say they're still faced with threats against them and their families, but hope to continue calling this community their home.
You get down, you get depressed, and it's like, but this is the town we grew up in. We didn't do anything wrong. We all contributed to our town. We love our town. Why should we have to go anywhere?
We didn't do anything wrong. Why should
And
we
only
have to?
2020.
We didn't do anything wrong. Okay, why did it's crazy that I get you want to come out and defend yourself if you think you were wronged, right? You firmly believe that.
No.
But would I just remain silent instead and just like Higgins, just go away? Yeah, we would probably, rather that. But I'm also intrigued to see what kind of BS they'd say. And it's hard to believe. Stop, kitty cat. I don't know what. It's like.
Well, they said, they could have gotten DNA, but they didn't. Commonwealth didn't send that to be tested. They only tested certain parts.
Well, that's something we're going to hear about that in so many cases.
Mm-hmm.
The DNA in Delphi, not all of it was tested.
Right.
There was none of Rick Allen's DNA in Delphi.
Yeah.
None. No DNA from that man on the scene or on the victims anywhere. Their DNA never found on anything that belonged to him.
Mm-hmm.
What does that mean for the case? John's DNA on the taillight, but there were also two other
Right.
DNAs. There was some unknowns on John's shoe. Could they have just been from walking around town? Absolutely.
Right.
I understand transfer DNA.
Mm-hmm.
Um,
Especially on the shoe, it goes everywhere.
yeah, how much weight would that hold in the end? Two unknowns in the Idaho 4 case, one from the stairwell railing. What does that mean to the case?
Mm.
Why wasn't it tested? Because if I'm down with all DNA being tested, I certainly would have rather have had that tested versus not tested, just to cover my
Right.
bases, if nothing else, right?
Mm-hmm.
Don't know why it wasn't. Did it meet criteria? There's a lot of things, but I would still like the answer. But
Mm-hmm.
when things go untested or aren't done properly, that gives your defense attorneys a huge opening.
Right.
Period. You can't deny it. And why would you do all that? Why would you make it easy for them if you got a cut and dry slam dunk type of case?
Mm-hmm.
No, we don't know who says the dog up north is Chloe. Who the hell knows where Chloe is anymore?
Exactly.
Many people try to trace that just a few weeks back. Chloe went here, no, Chloe got over here, and now she's got a name change, and so adopted her. And can we leave Chloe alone now, right? Chloe didn't do nothing but react in the moment. She was an innocent bystander who got caught up.
Yeah, a dog being a dog.
Yeah, she was just being loyal, not asking any questions as usual.
Mm-hmm.
The only one that will in this case. Yeah, they need to leave Chloe alone, right? She didn't do nothing. She didn't cause the man's death.
No.
No. She may have attacked him in the arm once somebody hit him and knocked him down.
Well, at least she's not with them anymore.
But I never, ever, ever in a million years thought for 1 second the injuries I saw to that arm killed that man. Either
No.
from a car wreck or a dog bite. Either way, what happened to that man's arm didn't cause his death.
Mm-mm.
No, it was far from it. It's that hardcore head injury in the back there and
Mm-hmm.
fracture in the front.
Yep.
It's crazy. Hard frozen ground versus hard floor, right? It makes your mind, that's where my mind goes automatically. Like when they were trying to drive that home in the prosecution that it was frozen hard ground. I'm like, no, but I remember what the weatherman testified. I remember what that man said, and I know what frozen feels like. I'm from the South in Florida here, but I know what frozen feels like, and it can be extremely hard. But that hard, possibly depends on how much force was behind the fall, right? And the impact. Like the man described, there's a lot that goes into it. It's called physics. If you stumbled and barely bumped your head, you're probably going to be cool. Like when my kid fell that time, and when I talked about it before, he says grandma's, and he fell and he was running down the driveway and he falls forward and he smacks the forehead on the concrete drive. So he automatically has these, big, the Flintstone goose egg that pops out, and then the raccoon eyes. But my mother-in-law was a nurse. If the point of impact, it pops outward, that's what you want. You don't want the indent where it's inward. You need to go right then to the ER. But we had him checked, of course she did, he was fine, but it was horrible for the longest time. Oh my God, it was bad. It looked like he'd been beaten, and I didn't want to take him anywhere. I'll never forget when I finally did take him somewhere. He was on the far end of healing.
Mm-hmm.
You could barely see the raccoon eyes anymore. They were a little dark, a little yellow, but were so close to healing. And this little old lady at Walmart stopped to say hello to him, and she said, "Oh my God, it looks like you met the concrete." And I was like, "Well, thank God, because that's exactly what happened."
Yeah, it happened to my ex-mother-in-law. She fell and bumped her head, and once it started healing, ran down into her eyes and looked like raccoon eyes. So.
Isn't it crazy? You know, just one hard
Mhm.
hit in the front, like that to the front of the face, will do that. And the
Right.
little fractures that are caused can be caused by it.
Mhm.
And like they described in court, two different injuries. So was he bending over when the arm was hit in order for the face to get an injury from the back of the car? And then when he was flung backwards so hard into the air and blammed on the ground, that's when the back injury to the head occurred. I don't buy that bending over
Mhm.
popped me in the forehead. That meant
Right.
John was totally checked out, didn't know what was going on. He dropped his phone, maybe. Still had the rock glass in his hand as he bends over to get it as he's coming
That
up. She hit him.
makes
That's
sense.
the only way you can make that make sense in my head. I tried to picture,
Mhm.
how was this man standing when she backed up and hit him? What was he doing? What was he doing? Was he just standing there staring at her car? Was he
Right.
walking away from her car? She would have hit him from dead behind, right? She just backed,
Mhm.
so he wasn't back
But
to
then there
her.
would have been more DNA on the car,
Right,
not
he wasn't
just.
back to her, he wasn't front facing
Mhm.
her, so he's side viewing her. Did he slip? I don't know. No, they couldn't
But
make
he
any of that make sense, right?
No,
No,
because
the
even
one
if it would have been with
trying to
paint by, he
yeah.
would have dropped the glass and it would have shattered. It wouldn't have
Yeah.
just cracked into those pieces.
I think the jurors had some of the same thought process going through that
Mhm.
story, right? Of how
Right.
they're telling me it unfolded. But then when I think about that unfolding logically in my head, can I see that that happened? Or maybe that does or doesn't make sense. And I think a lot of them were able to do that. They
Right.
were able to do that in their, with their visualization. So let's take a look now at a little bit of what Proctor had to say. And we
Mm.
got some pieces with that juror, there was another juror, like the one from TMZ that they interviewed originally. Um, what did I do with that one from TMZ? Oh, it's right there. Okay. So this is going to be a little piece. Okay, so there's one. They're so super tiny. There's two little takeaways. One's from, well, they're both from Boston 5, and they're little snippets they took from, I believe it's the 2020 that interviewed Proctor the other night. But then there's another channel that has like a 22-minute segment on the interview, I guess, where he said more. And
Right.
I can't play the whole interview from the show here, obviously, but
Right.
they were playing excerpts here and there, and so I grabbed a couple. So let's take a look at this one first. It's like 50 seconds long. Okay, let me back it up a little bit, because I don't know if I could take a lot of this guy to start with. It may be a lot to get through the show if I watch it with his whole. I kind of want to see it because I'm intrigued by what kind of anal, whatever. But he just doesn't strike me as super bright.
Yeah.
Like I don't. Well, you
Me
thought
either.
red Solo cups were a good idea, so that right there kind of gives it away, right? But I just thought
Mhm.
about that. Well, he is the guy that said it was okay to do red Solo cups, so I don't know why I'm surprised. They just strikes me as not real bright. Okay, here we go. Disclaimer: I'm not being anything but honest.
At what point did you develop such strong negative feelings about Karen Reed that you would say things like, hopefully she kills herself, or calling her the C word?
Those feelings developed as the case went on.
I mean, can you see how people might think, he was
I-
caught in this instance
Yeah.
speaking about a suspect in this way. Maybe it's happened in other cases as well.
I 100% understand why people would think that. But when you have, a fellow police officer around my age, 2 kids of his own, it generates an emotion. And I expressed those emotions in a negative way, which I shouldn't have. I shouldn't even, been texting my friends anything. They are what they are.
No,
they
you
don't
shouldn't.
define me as a person. They're
And he didn't
regrettable.
say no, it hasn't.
He
either.
said they don't define him as a person. Yeah, they do. They absolutely
When,
show you as a person.
right. Well, when he said it makes you wonder if it's happened in other cases, he didn't say no, it hasn't.
Of
He just
course
said,
not.
I see how you could think that way.
Well, because
That
it's
says a
obvious.
lot.
Okay, here's the thing. To me, it was obvious because they
Mm-hmm.
were way too comfortable in their communication with one
Yep.
another. The whole little fucking group of people,
Mm-hmm.
the high school buddies to the cops that were in on the conversation, they were so comfortable. Buchanan was a
Yep.
part of it. They were super comfortable. That's something they always did. So it was business as usual,
Mm-hmm.
is all it was. And
Yep.
this time they got caught
Exactly.
because the feds got involved. So, yeah, sir, it does show your character. It absolutely shows your character. And
Mm-hmm.
if your wife, I'm not your wife, so therefore it doesn't matter.
I just remember dropping on my knees and laying on my lawn, like crying. That was tough.
Is there any part of the actual investigation?
Hang on, I accidentally made it go to the next video, and that's what that channel was that had the longer version of that interview. Hold on. I hit the wrong button. Okay. Yeah, I hit the wrong button. This guy, I swear.
Right, Hanks? Evolved over the case. Those were written, what, 1 to 2, then like the next day or two? So didn't evolve over the case.
Yeah, he was doing shady stuff the whole time over a matter of days that turned into a couple of weeks.
Mm-hmm.
He made a decision early on. How quick did he get into Karen Reed's phone and discover these text messages between her and Higgins? Because, look, did they not discover those until Higgins went and downloaded his own
No,
phone
he had to have seen them
extraction?
before. I doubt it. He had to have seen them before. Unless she deleted
No,
them,
I
but
mean, when did the cops? Because they said the only reason Higgins called up his buddy and got walked through the process to extract his own phone data was to retrieve that text message thread. And then he got rid of the whole ass phone.
right.
Hold on one second. Hold on one sec. Okay, grandson came in. Yeah, Proctor and Karen convicted in the first day. Proctor had Karen. Yeah, but so when did they? Because they arrested her in February, and they indicted her and all the things. But when did they get to the conclusion that besides her screaming out, "Could I have hit him?" stuff, do you got to have more than that? And they tried to use those text messages to show there was more than that. This is what led up to this. See how she was. See all this. See all that. This guy needs to stop lying. This guy, like, he's. I feel some kind of way about this freak.
And I expressed those emotions in a negative way, which I shouldn't have. I shouldn't even, been texting my friends anything. They are what they are. They don't define me as a person. They're regrettable. I just remember dropping on my knees and laying on my lawn, like crying.
I don't know where that's going. What's happening?
Tough.
Is there any part of the actual investigation that you would do over?
I wouldn't change anything.
Nothing.
No.
The deceased is a cop.
No, nor should it.
This is Michael Proctor, a former Massachusetts state trooper.
Oh, I know what happened. The other video was so short, it rolled into this guy's video. And like I said, this is a channel that, yeah, Vince the lawyer, it was on my feed this morning. And I guess I threw it in here to remind me to look for the Proctor clips, but this is the only one. There was another one that I have, like a 30-second clip of that, and it's Proctor again. But y'all know what he's saying. You know what I mean? That he, ignore my text messages. They don't say anything about me as a guy, but yeah, they do. They say a lot about you. And then we have to question the ties you had to the family or to the homeowners and all the things. It's just, it doesn't make, it's they're trying to walk back, and the fact that they didn't call him right in trial, that the prosecution didn't, because they knew they would have severe damage control that the defense could have picked it apart on cross. And they didn't want that. I guess the defense felt like it's better, like Alan Jackson spoke of earlier, they could have really just laid in heavy to the theory, or really laid into heavily that this evidence they have doesn't come close to matching what our experts evidence say, and we're going to drive that home along with this bad investigation and along with this missing lead detective that they refuse to call up here for some reason. Why
Yep.
wouldn't you call that lead detective and ask all the questions, and so they left a lot of questions for the jury to ask. And so I'm glad that they were paying attention to all the things that we noted, right? That we took
Right.
note of. And hopefully we can do that moving forward with all the cases that we look at here. I mean, I hope to be able to do that. And I'm not just so blind and tunnel vision that I'm like, that doesn't matter. I'll be like, oh, damn, that's kind of not good for us, or whichever side it may be.
No.
I
This
don't have.
is loophole lawyer, so it's called.
There, thank you for dropping that, because I was about to
Mhm.
say we need to drop this link so you guys can go there and watch him and his commentary. I appreciate his efforts here, but I'm not going to play his stream and all that. So,
Mhm.
but, I do appreciate that, and because I was, like I said, there were a couple of little clips dropped with him. I haven't watched any of the interviews in at all yet, like beginning to end on these shows. Like I said, I think it was a Dateline, a 2020, and a Nightline that all
Mhm.
came. I think Friday were the wait, didn't one air the night the verdict came out?
2020.
The
That was
2020
a
did?
proctor. I think that was a proctor, and then yesterday was a 2 hour from Dateline, and I don't know about the Nightline one. I
I
haven't
think
seen that one.
Nightline was Friday night. That's usually or it could have been Thursday night. I don't know. I know one of
Yeah,
the
today's
segments we
Friday.
reviewed. Okay. Oh, that's right. See, I'm like, oh yeah. I'm so thrown off with school being out
Mhm.
too, with this kiddo
Mhm.
being at home. It's like it's a weekend or whatever it feels like. But I just stop and think
Well,
about it.
everything ran together with the court. I mean, with the court dates and.
Well, you know me, I don't think too much about the day anyway, and I remember, oh yeah, it is Friday. Okay. So with that said, I will be at Shorty's this weekend, and I think I've been going on over there around 8 o'clock. Camp Shorty starts sooner than that. And it's always a good time hanging out over there. I don't
Mhm.
know if she has anything planned on Kick this weekend or not. I don't really know. But you guys go over there and check her out as well, and come join us over there tomorrow night and join the conversation. We really appreciate you guys for coming in and hanging out with us there. It's always a good time, isn't it?
Yep. She's on at 7 p.m. Central tonight. I just added the
That's right.
link.
She does. Her Camp Shorty starts tonight, doesn't it? It's Friday. It's our
Mhm.
Friday. It's like Saturday for Shorty. I get confused.
And
She
tomorrow
li-
is a kick she usually does on
yeah,
Saturdays. So.
she lives in the future.
Mhm.
No way, Rach. Seriously, I got somebody that. Oh my
Oh
goodness.
yes, I was just
Hold
gonna
on.
say that. I was actually looking at it.
Hold on. Hold on. That means my buddy on X has got to be ecstatic right now. Hold on. Is there something on the YouTube from them? Okay, let me get over here.
I saw the docket posted.
Here, let me do this. I had a feeling. My friend had a feeling it was coming. I just didn't know if it ever really would. Um,
He was arrested in Arizona on June 18th.
wow.
Mm-hmm.
On the 18th. Well, for what though? What was he arrested for?
First degree murder.
11 minutes. Okay.
First degree murder.
Here we got something from 11 minutes ago. Who is this? Crime Talk? I don't want to snag somebody's shit. I don't know who this creator is. Oh well. Okay, because, all right, let me grab a link here. Okay.
Yeah, Rachel posted something.
All right. Okay, let me pull the screen. This is, like I said, this is a crime talk with Bobby. I know I've seen this channel around a lot. I don't watch it and stuff. I don't know much about it. Breaking news from 28 minutes ago. Barry Morphew arrested. Let's see what this has to say. He's indicted. Okay. Oh, my guy, you have no sound. I think that happened to that other guy I watched yesterday. He did a video and there was no sound. Okay, he pulled a whole oh, yeah. Okay, well, maybe not.
Wife Suzanne Morphew as wife Barry Morphew. Remember, he was previously charged with the death of his wife Suzanne Morphew as it related to her disappearance back on Mother's Day in May of 2020. And then the police found her remains in a different county, Saguche County in 2023. Well, guess what? A grand jury has returned an indictment charging Barry Morphew with first-degree murder in connection with his wife, Suzanne Morphew's, like I said, and her remains were found back in October of 2023. Remember the first trial? They didn't have the remains. There was kind of, no face, no case, no body, no evidence kind of thing. Anyway, the 12th Judicial District Grand Jury returned the indictment on Wednesday, and Morphew was taken into custody, according to a news release from the District Attorney's Office.
Okay, he's under a... Hold on. Let me... Okay, so I have a friend on Twitter who's like my... he's my go-to for a lot of things. Okay, he is a huge supporter for the Susan Morphew case. And so I went there and I have the Chaffee County Sheriff's Office release from 33 minutes ago. And it says, "We are here at the Chaffee County Sheriff's Office are happy to announce that Barry Morphew has been indicted by a grand jury for his wife's murder, and he is back in custody on a $3 million bond. We are proud of our staff and law enforcement partners for never giving up. The Chaffee County Sheriff's Office will not be answering case-sensitive questions at this time. Please see the below press release put out by the 12th Judicial District Attorney Ann Kelly. On June 18, 2025, the 12th Judicial District Grand Jury returned an indictment charging Barry Morphew with first-degree murder of his wife, Susan Morphew. Mr. Morphew was taken into custody in Arizona on June 20th of 2025. The 12th Judicial District Attorney's Office will seek to extradite Mr. Morphew back to San Luis Valley. There will be a media briefing on 6 p.m. the 20th. So that's today. I had to look at the calendar, y'all. Y'all know me. I'm like, is that today, right? Okay. It's Friday, and yes, it's the 20th. Dang. At the San Luis Valley Department Fire Prevention and Control, located at 1301 West Avenue in Alamoso, Colorado. The investigation into the disappearance and murder of Susan Morphew has been ongoing both before and after her remains were discovered near the town of Moffett in Sacaquash County, Colorado. Did I say that correctly? The investigation team consists of law enforcement officers and the Chaffee County Sheriff's Office, the Saguche County Sheriff's Office, the Colorado Bureau of Investigation, and the Federal Bureau of Investigation. The Arizona Department of Public Safety assisted the investigation team by apprehending Mr. Morphew in Arizona. Federal, state, and local law enforcement have never stopped working toward justice for Susan, the 12th Judicial District Attorney Ann Kelly had said. The 12th Judicial District Attorney's Office stands in solidarity with Susan's family and the citizens of Chaffee and Sacagawea counties in pursuing the grand jury's indictment. The 12th Judicial District Attorney's Office will be assisted by the Boulder County District Attorney's Office in this prosecution. The Denver County District Attorney's Office will provide appellate support. The 12th Judicial District Attorney's Office recognizes Boulder County District Attorney Michael Daughtry. He has consistently provided essential support and leadership to rural prosecutors with limited resources to pursue major cases and obtain justice for victims throughout the state. To follow this case from this point forward, we would encourage you to follow the state judicial case of. Oh, we got a case of interest page. All right. This is something I'm reading off of Twitter posts, guys. I'll have to get this link. Anyway, it's a case of interest page where you will hear all the public documents and hearings, including the indictment, can be found soon on they give the website. It's just like the Idaho website and our Florida website. We anticipate that the state judicial will be live streaming the court hearings. Oh, wow. The
Nice.
the hearing links can be found on state judicial case of interest pages. Okay, let me save that because definitely need to take a look at that, and I want to cover those. You know what I mean? That's been a long time coming, right?
Mm-hmm.
It
Plunder
doesn't,
just posted something about it as well.
huh?
So Plunder just posted about the 10-page indictment.
Did she? Then it's available on the website. Then I'll have to get it. I'll grab it so we can take a look at that, and I'll save that. I'll make a file for them as well, like I do Stearns and Koberger. Well, I'm glad. I mean, that's a long time coming, and we know that it doesn't take a ton. I mean, unfortunately, it doesn't. It is what it is for a grand jury indictment. But do you have enough proof beyond that? Sometimes you do, and sometimes you don't, right?
Mhm.
So it'd be interesting to see what kind of evidence do they have against this guy, right? That could really. I mean, I
Well,
know
they're
some of
saying
the
a new
circumstantial,
a
huh?
new DA. That could be a lot. That could
Well,
have a lot to do with it as
there's a
well.
lot of circumstantial already there. There's things they
Mhm.
know about Mr. Morphew that he wishes that they didn't know about
Right.
his location and about things he was doing. So I already know there's circumstantial evidence that exists in the case. My buddy on Twitter does a pretty jam up job of keeping us updated on Susan Morphew's case and what's the going ons and all that. So I've been watching his page for as long as we've been covering Lori Vallow and Karen Reed cases, there's been some movement in Susan's case, right? And so I've been watching it through his post, basically. That I knew that was going to be my only go-to. So that's crazy that came down today.
Right.
This is all wrapping up now. And it's good for her. His daughters supported him, though, right? They have two daughters. They're grown now, and I believe that when he was arrested before, they were in full support of their dad. I don't know if that's changed. I'm not here to say how they should feel.
Mhm.
It's their dad, not mine. So that will be interesting to see. For Susan, I'm sure there are people in her family that do care about her and want justice and probably believe wholeheartedly that he deserves
Mhm.
exactly what he's getting. I just hope they have the proof they need to prove it, right? That's always
Mhm.
my worry with these types of cases. What do you
Right.
have, and is it enough to convince a jury these days? It
Yeah. Well,
depends. If
it
you're
has
Lori
to.
Vallow, circumstantial's good enough. You know?
Mm.
So, hey, it is what it is. Um, it's crazy. All right, guys, I'm going to let you guys go for the day. It's Friday. My kiddo will be home from work in a little while. I don't know what him and his kiddo have planned for the weekend. I'm going to chill. I'm going to get this website together and go on here and see if I can find this indictment, some other docs.
Mhm.
I might go live tomorrow for a little while on Saturday. It depends. I know I will be with Shorty tomorrow night, but we'll see. If not, we'll probably do a Sunday show and maybe start to cover some of this indictment with Susan Morphew. We'll see. Um, Thank you all for coming in and chit chatting
Thank
with
you.
us and helping us unpack some of this aftermath of Karen Reed. I mean, at least we're not sitting here discussing,
We're
you
waiting
know,
on the verdict still.
waiting on a verdict or we're trying to get through trial. You know, it's all that's over. And I know that nobody is happier or more relieved than Karen Reed. And
Right.
I feel bad for John O'Keefe's family, but, you got to take a look at who investigated this because it ultimately lies on their shoulders,
Mhm.
no matter how you
Agreed.
look at it. If they had done a better job investigating, period, done a better job with their expert witnesses, maybe that would, yeah, I don't know what would have helped them. I don't know what would have helped them, but
Mhm.
because we had some pretty convincing experts for the defense. The ARCA guys were huge. The doctors that came in and testified were big, you know, and just like you said earlier, the medical examiner alone, their testimony. Um, and then back
Their
to what,
own witness, their own experts. I
yeah,
mean,
and then if you go back to what little Albert wanted to say, oh, it takes 30 to 50 people and you need EMTs and firefighters. Well, we had that, didn't we?
yeah.
Didn't we have a couple of EMTs, firefighters get up there and say this and that? Didn't we have
Mhm.
one come in and change her whole testimony? Didn't we have one come in super combative?
Yep.
Didn't want to be there. Her job depended on it. Yeah, we see how that could have happened, sir. Funny you
Yep.
bring that up.
They painted a pretty good picture of it, and we didn't. I mean,
Right?
we didn't go
Funny.
looking for it. It was
Yeah.
blatant.
What are you talking about, mister? You're planting ideas in my head now.
Mhm.
um, okay. But
Yep.
hey, it at least is over for Karen Reed. And even if she had done it and it was an accident, then the state is still on them. They blundered it, right? It's still on them.
Mhm.
And I don't think that happened though. It's
Yeah.
just not. It doesn't match up. Never did. So
Mm-mm.
good for Karen Reed. I hate it for John O'Keefe's family, but it's not. We didn't investigate it and file the charges. So there's
No,
that.
but at least there's not another injustice.
Yeah, I don't think that it's fair to say people who come out and speak like we are like for Karen Reed, or if you want to call it that, or just talking about it in general. Oh, look, they're supporting her. They don't support the family, and it's not about supporting a victim or a family or a defendant. For me,
Right.
I support
Right.
all the families. I think I've made that clear here. I support the families. I don't think of them any kind of wait till later on after a case, maybe. You know what I mean? But during a case, I
Right.
try to leave them alone completely. I just shoot. I don't. Mm-mm.
I
I
just
know
want to
better.
know what the evidence is and what they're presenting,
Yeah,
and
I know
then
better than
some
to
of the
go
other
after
stuff
a
comes
damn
along
family
with it.
member. I mean, that to me, that's juvenile. It depends on the family member. Now, if they come out super shady and they're coming in hot and being hateful and saying and doing very bizarre things and causing red flags, then that's on them. Now I'm
Yeah,
looking.
every
Now
situation is
yeah,
different.
you gave me reason to look when I wasn't paying you any attention before, but now
Mhm.
I am. So that's again on you, right?
Yeah.
So, all right,
Exactly.
guys, there's just, thank goodness we are finally in a place we can unpack some of this now. And, I guess letting those Alberts and McCabe's, whatever they all are over there, to come out and say their little piece. Now, maybe they'll just go away now. And I
Yeah.
don't know. They're just going to have to go away because I don't think the town's going to do much about it. Because if you start doing something about it, you got to turn on each other and do something about each other, right? Judges
Yeah.
and attorneys and higher ups. I mean,
Mhm.
you can't. Everybody's like, when are they going to do something? Well, they start doing something, then they're all in trouble. So
Yeah.
no one's going to say a word. We need this to go away, right?
Yeah.
Quietly.
Well,
Shh.
it's up to the people there in Canton to do for their
Exactly.
own.
The pushback has to come
Mhm.
from within that
Locally.
community.
Yep.
Yeah. And I have said that here, even here in Florida, there was a time when we had the most the the worst GCF system, the Child Department of Children and Families, Department of
Mhm.
Children and Families, and they let kids go missing for 2 years at a time. Nobody knew, and all these things were happening. We were like, "What in the world's going on here? How come
Yeah.
we never knew this?" And when the public found out, they're like, "Hold up, we're paying for what?
Mhm.
For y'all to do what? Lose kids? No, thank you." Pushback happened, and it was massive. They overhauled the system.
Yeah. Well,
And
they're not
the
gonna do
Florida
it.
Department of Law Enforcement wasn't always a jam up entity it is now. right? Pushback came, along the way. So it's okay to do that. You have to have pushback sometimes, and it's not like you're stirring the crowd or cranking the internet and causing a riot and all these things. You're just trying to be constructive, right? And going forward in your community. So I think a lot of people probably will be right, like you said. It's going to be on them, within them to do and they're going to do it.
Right.
I think if they're tired of seeing enough corruption, especially the smaller men in the community, those
Yeah.
people who feel like they never had a voice to start with because hey, they own the town, they may now have some strength to push back against that and say, "See, we've been telling y'all all along.
Right.
See what we've
Yeah.
been telling you." Exactly, exactly.
Open, like her dad said, open the eyes of the
Yeah,
people.
yeah. Open the eyes, shed light on what's happening. Sandra Birchmore comes to mind. If there, come on, now there's two cases very close to one another with shady things going on with the same officers involved. And we're just supposed to buy into everything's okay here.
Yeah.
That's hard. That's a hard one. That's a hard sell, right, for people.
Yeah.
It's not like a one-off case. No, 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 no. Now you got two on your hands. Now you want us to believe everything these certain people have to say. It's not. It's not no longer credible. There was some new movement in that case about the DNA showing that what's his name, the officer wasn't the father of her baby, and like I just saw the headline of that, and I'm like,
Yeah, me too.
haven't even had time to look at that. It doesn't matter.
No,
If
it's
he
what he
thought
thought.
exactly, it's what he thought, right? And
Mhm.
was she misleading him, or did she not know? I don't know. I haven't got there yet.
But not
What
to mention
matters is what
everything
he
else that was
knows.
going on. Everything
Right.
else that was going on.
Yeah. I mean, I don't care either way what the old girl was doing. What matters is what you said, what he thought. If he thought that was his baby, that's he thought it was his baby regardless. So yeah, there's a little bit going on there. All right, guys, I'm gonna let you guys go for the day. I'll see you over the weekend.
Alrighty. Well,
I'll
thank you
grab
for
these
having me.
documents. Well, thank you for coming up and hanging out with me. I appreciate it. Thank
This
you all
may
for
be
coming in.
the last one till I come back, maybe. Because I want to do it tomorrow.
What is that now?
I said this may be the last one until I come back from vacation. But
Yes,
I'll be
because
up there with you.
she is going on vacation. Rachel and I and Forrest will be here holding it down until Butterfly gets back.
I'll be checking in, and
Yeah, yeah.
I'll be up your way, so I'll be
Yes, you'll
checking
be
in with
close
you.
enough to me. So you guys have a safe trip for sure when you start
Thank
traveling.
you.
And yeah, thank you everybody for coming in and joining us. Please like and subscribe and all the things that YouTube enjoys us to do. I do appreciate you guys all coming in, taking a look at some of this stuff with us, and just weighing in on it and talking about it because it's like it was a lot of stuff for
Yeah.
this case. Hopefully we won't see one this chaotic for a little while. We took up that Koberger case coming up.
Yeah.
I don't know how chaotic that's going to be. If it's going to be a long, boring trial,
Right.
so many experts to move through and CVs to get through. Do you know what I'm saying? I'm like, do I really? All that training records and Taylor wanted. I'm gonna have to go through all there from kindergarten, preschool training, all the way up. It's gonna
Right.
That's gonna be the grueling parts of this case, and then the fighting over that 7 minutes of phone discrepancy. We'll get there. All right. So let me take a look at some of these documents from the Susan Morphew case, guys. We'll get back to you on that. You guys have a great weekend. If I don't see you tomorrow or Sunday, hopefully I'll see you back here Monday morning. Butterfly, have a good one. We'll pop in and say hello when you can. We will look forward to it and enjoy your It's humid as hell here right now.
Oh, here too, but at least they got the beach over there, so that's what I'm
You're used to that humidity too, but I was going to tell you it just got like turned on the last 2 days. Like it's been so gorgeous here without humidity, and then boom, all of a sudden one day, boom, it's like, hey, here
I'm
I
here.
am. Remember me? Yeah, your old buddy, that humidity. So it is what it is. So I haven't been outside much today. I went out there once this morning with my morning coffee, and it was early in the morning, and the humidity was already bad. I was like, damn, I hate it. That's the only time I complain is when it's so bad I can't go have morning coffee.
Right.
Hopefully it's gone by the evening. All right,
Yeah.
guys. You guys have
Thank
a
you,
good one.
everyone. Y'all take care.
Yeah, and thanks for coming up, and we'll see you again soon, ma'am.
Okay.
All right,
I will
guys.
talk to
Have
you
a
soon.
great one. Bye.
Bye.
Thank you all for watching this here video. Please like and subscribe.